For William Glenford, the Witchcraft Institute's top graduate, life was supposed to follow a fixed path, no deviations allowed. His professor leans in and reminds him he's the institute's top student and its brightest hope, and with that kind of spotlight he can chase literally anything he wants. So no, he wasn't some scrub adventurer, he was a court magician or a professor, the kind of name that carries power. But William's childhood was basically stuffed with wild adventure stories that lit up his dreams. Craving that only got louder with every book you devoured. The professor begged him, warning that if someone of his caliber became an adventurer, it would stain the institute's name forever. So William makes a silent promise right then, he'll turn into a true nothingness, a ghost, if it means protecting the very school that raised him. With a final, determined glare, he turns his back and strides off, shattering the old life he's outgrown. His journey kicks off right now. Touching down in Adelsha, he charges straight for the Adventurers Guild. And then yeah, he probably sees that F-rank tag appear on his record. It's only the start, but to him, it's everything he's ever wanted. He drops straight to the quest board and there it is, an easy, no-frills goblin extermination request that's perfect for a beginner. But here's the catch, F-rank adventurers have to team up with at least 4 people to even step into the field. Out of nowhere, a tiny voice shoots up from below. A tiny beastman girl named Miai steps up and introduces herself, then instantly clocks him as a brand new F-ranker. William can't believe how tiny she is. And he can't help himself, he pats her head and laughs, saying this isn't a place for a kid. She fires back that she's a grown-up, and he scrambles to reassure her it was just a joke. Miai tells them her party of 3 is hunting for one final teammate to join the goblin quest. William finally admits he's a mage, or at least something close, and she drags him straight into the rest of the party. A soft-spoken cleric, Cyril, and a swaggering samurai, Satsuki, step into the spotlight together. The whole party is packed with beautiful women, and William just can't stop noticing how every other male adventurer seethes with jealousy. Once everyone's introduced, the brand new party bursts into motion and heads out. They burst into the goblin-infested forest faster than you can blink. And he spotted 2 watchmen posted on the sidelines. While the others argue strategy, William stays cool and decides to take matters into his own hands. He mutters a basic sleep spell, but with his shaky newcomer nerves, the magic slips out of his hands and spirals out of control. The spell whips into existence, tearing open a colossal vortex of raw energy. It doesn't just wipe out the goblins, it floors his entire party too. That massive wave of magic washes all the way over a distant town, then hits everyone like a spell, knocking them out cold. He looms over his teammates as they sleep and the blame gnaws at him, because he couldn't keep his power under control. He grabs Satsuki first, and the moment she learns he just knocked the goblins out and put them to sleep, terror hits her like a truck. He roared that a real samurai never strikes down people who can't fight back. Cyril snaps awake and tears into him for charging in recklessly without a signal, because he just put everyone in danger. William finally hears her out, nods as if the truth hits hard, and then drops a heartfelt apology for how overconfident he's been. The second they step into the goblin cave, Miai shoots ahead, her beastman instincts screaming at full volume. William, struck by what he sees, slips in and secretly fires his wizard eye spell to scout ahead, then Miai somehow senses it anyway, snapping his focus with her razor-sharp instincts. They burst into another room, bam, 5 goblins are waiting right there. And this time, William locks onto his sleep spell perfectly, and he drops every last one of them without a single hitch. Satsuki still looks torn, so he blurts out that at a party, you've got to roll with whatever's happening. Feeling that hits her right in the chest. She boldly declares that next time, the spotlight is hers to take. Deep inside, Miai stumbles on a deadly, intricate trap, and it screams one thing: this goblin is insanely smart. William's wizard eye pierces the darkness and his worst fears come true. There's a goblin lord and a goblin mage crouched in the final chamber waiting for her. The whole party recoils in shock, because that miserable dream just won't let them breathe. But Satsuki can't stop smiling, because the thought of a real fight has her buzzing with excitement. William dares her to prove herself, promising the goblin lord is hers to claim. They burst into the chamber and right away William hammers the goblin mage with another spell, knocking him out instantly. Mia and Cyril freeze on the job, staring in shock at a monster that's draining the magic out of everything. Satsuki squares off against the roaring goblin lord, and the air feels like it's about to crack, before detonating with a crushing strike that sends it down in one single blow. She flashes a grin and admits it was actually pretty fun. William is blown away, sizing her up and betting she's packing C-rank strength. They rush back to the guild, only to find the place in chaos, because some mysterious mass sleeping incident just rocked the entire city. William can't shake the feeling, something in him just knows what's behind it. Miai, the ever-vigilant scout, spots a brand new mission and storms a nearby village to wipe out the undead. And the party shoots off again. The village looks wiped off the map, burned, torn apart, and covered in corpses. As they walk, William leans in and breaks down the idea of aura to Miai. This life force Satsuki taps to unleash those insane, unstoppable attacks. Cyril fires off a brutal warning: undead laugh at magic, so William's sleep spell is gonna fizzle out and do nothing. But she says it with total confidence, like this is her territory and everyone knows it. As the horde closes in, William hurls a gigantic fireball forward, blasting the front lines to see how they react. He incinerates a bunch of zombies on the spot, then shoots back that he's got to save his mana and hurries off, telling his party to finish the rest. She doesn't take a single step, her holy power erupts, and she fires off turn and dead asterisk. Unleashing a blinding wave of light, he vaporized dozens of zombies in one crushing blast. William can't look away, staring in awe at her raw power and flawless judgment. Miai thinks she's falling behind, but William swoops in with praise. He tells her he truly values her scouting skills, her trap detection instincts, and that unstoppable bright attitude that never drops. His words hit her like lightning. She blushes, snaps back, and darts off to help clean up the last few. But the moment the battle winds down, everything goes horribly wrong. Satsuki's aura erupts with savage, violent force. In the blink of an eye, she launches forward and drops Cyril in one brutal strike. Then Mia launches them straight into the air like she's swinging a wrecking ball. William froze solid, staring in shock because his brain couldn't wrap around what was happening. Satsuki whips around to face him, her expression contorting into a terrifying, giddy smile, and then she erupts into a manic, full-throttle laugh, claiming that this insane power means she can finally wipe out everyone. A chilling laugh rolls through the air as the spirit latched onto Satsuki glares them down, swearing that the scum will pay for messing with it. But William doesn't even flinch. He calmly whispers a sleep spell and the furious girl instantly crumples to the ground. He snaps coldly at Miai to grab a rope, then they tie her up. Once she's strapped up, he interrogates the ghost, because now it's using Satsuki's body like a weapon. Cyril says you can only calm a spirit by settling its regrets, but the ghost just shrieks with pure hatred and screams that she wants to murder them all. William flatly refuses her request, and as the spirit Philia trembles through the tale, he hears how bandits stormed her village, raped the women, and slaughtered everyone. She pleads for freedom, voice burning with a savage urge to tear out their guts, yet William answers like ice, cold and immovable. Philia explodes, accusing them of backing the bandits, but Cyril cuts in fast, reminding William that the only thing that matters is Satsuki's safety. She warns them that if Philia rushes in recklessly, Satsuki could get killed, and they refuse to gamble with her life. Crushed and choking on tears, she begs, "If I can't land my revenge, then what am I supposed to do?" Seeing her desperation, William smells the perfect opening and Cyril urges her to make a real request. Then they reveal their adventurers for hire. Suddenly, right inside her head, Satsuki snaps to the truth. She's the one getting possessed, and her own body starts moving like it's not hers. The whole group rushes to a nearby church to offer a prayer, and Philia can't help but feel genuinely grateful. Right in the middle of the journey, Satsuki gets slammed by the ghost's memories. She suddenly sees Philia, glowing in a wedding dress, floating in pure bliss and love the night before her marriage to the village chief's son. But the closer they get to the church, Philia snaps. She's terrified and she refuses to step inside. Another memory hits her like a nightmare. Bandits crash the church and tear her wedding apart. Her fiancé fell as he pushed her to run for her life. And a leering brute snatches his prize from her, like he's claiming her for the slaughter. In the present, William finally realizes the bride was Philia. Cyril fumes at the story, but William drifts into thoughts about how justice shifts with perspective, then shrugs it off. Philia digs out a secret pouch stuffed with 100 gold coins. That's her pay right there. Now that they've locked in the reward, the party grabs the quest, slips into the hideout, then wipes every last bandit off the map. Satsuki's spirit materializes in front of Philia, tells her to snap out of it, and reveals she's only borrowing her body for a bit, one brutal kind-hearted truth that sends Philia straight into tears. They rolled up to a massive mansion that doubled as the bandits' secret hideout. Mia stealthily takes out a guard without a single word. As they stare at the building, Philia's eyes flare with pure, venomous hatred. William throws out the simple sneaking plan and casts a see-through spell, scanning the whole building like he's reading it through glass. Inside, he stumbles into rooms packed with dozing, booze-soaked bandits, perfect prey just begging to be taken down. He gives the signal, and me and Cyril slide in like shadows, cutting throats silently. But Philia's thirst for vengeance rages out of control. She screams like a nightmare, slams her sword onto a sleeping bandit, and wakes the whole camp at once. The moment she goes in, the room detonates into chaos. She's hacking and slashing as she roars, begging the scum to die. To stop them from shouting for reinforcements, William snaps a silent spell, and the frantic bandits suddenly lose their voices. Miai bursts into the chaos and drops another confused enemy like it's nothing. With the danger finally shut down, William storms in, rage blazing as he confronts Philia for almost wrecking their entire plan. Cyril's fear spikes. What if he has to put her through exercise? And that thought sends Philia into panic because she's terrified her revenge chance will vanish. Satsuki's spirit leaps in again, soothing Philia and leaving everyone else baffled with her bright, kid-like play-by-play of the fight. Now that she's got her composure back, Philia asks to take on the final room, the one where the boss is alone. William knows this is suicide, so he slams her with a storm of blessing and strengthening spells, over and over, until she keeps fainting, and only then is she finally ready. Satsuki leans in and fires off one last word of encouragement, telling her to do exactly what she pleases. Fueled by William's haste magic, Philia surges forward at superhuman speed. Rushing into the final room, he drove his blade through the man before he even had time to react. The others rush her in a frenzy, but their axes just clatter off an invisible force field William already sealed in place. Her enchanted sword flares with raw power as she strides straight at the terrified men. The boss snarls that his powerful backer will crush her, but Philia just shrugs it off, because the only thing that matters is whether she can end them herself with her own hands. She unleashes her fury, steel flying, vengeance screaming, and the whole room ends up splattered in blood. Towering over the final corpse, she finally brings her quest to a crashing end. She thanks Satsuki one last time, then slips away like a goodbye kiss, finally heading to join her beloved in the afterlife. Satsuki snaps back into her own body, throws her arms around her friends, and lets out a breath of pure relief, because it's finally over. But while William tears through the room, he spots a letter waiting for him. His face drains of color as the message hits his eyes, and order drops like a death sentence: wipe out Philia's entire village. That signature at the bottom isn't just ink, it's the real nightmare, Count Goldart, the noble who rules this whole land. The party just freezes in stunned silence, baffled as they try to figure out why a lord would hire bandits to smash his own thief. Glaceburg's royal capital is pure awe, an enormous, sprawling metropolis that makes Cyril feel like a total backwoods hillbilly the second he lays eyes on it. Satsuki teases her for being way too obvious, but wow, the grandeur is impossible to deny. As they head toward the capital, Satsuki can't stop wondering why they even came in the first place, so Will spills the whole grim story from start to finish. He reached out to the Witchcraft Institute to track down any info on a graduate named Alice Framelia. He didn't send a letter, he used a magical mirror to talk straight to his old professor. His professor nodded and confirmed that Alice's graduation paper, a deadly form of magic powered by the souls of the dead, so strictly forbidden that just talking about it feels like crossing a line. Cyril was tucking into surprisingly adorable sandwiches and loving every bite. Satsuki wastes no time, she's already decided they have to track this Alice down and cut her down for siding with the undead. He calmly corrected her, saying the real target was Count Goldart, the man who approved Alice's twisted research and even used a letter to order the bandit attack on Philia's village. That same letter is the proof they need, and as adventurers they should cash it in for a reward. To pull that off, they've got to track down one of his acquaintances, a guy he talks about in riddles like he's somehow a prince in disguise, so the girls are left staring at each other, convinced he's tied to people way above their heads. Turns out he was born in the capital and stayed there until he hit 13, yeah, it shocks everyone. He drives them straight to their goal, a towering, intimidating castle that looms like a fortress out of a nightmare. Right in front of the gate, Cyril's nerves spike. He can't stop wondering if a prince would actually show up for them without an appointment. Suddenly, a mysterious figure steps in and names the blonde youth as Eileen Glasserode, the princess of this country. Cyril is stunned. He grabs Will by the collar and yells, "What do you mean by prince?" He calmly corrects him, saying he'd spoken as a prince, but that sly wording still snaps into place as a misleading line, and it earns him a sharp, glaring look. Eileen and Will start reminiscing about their childhood, and suddenly they're back in this courtyard, battling it out with homemade wooden swords. While Smugly keeps replaying every win in his head, Satsuki clocks his childish moves and calls him out. Sensing a fight in the air, Eileen jumps in and suggests they spar right now. Satsuki caught a wooden sword mid-throw. They lock eyes, smirking like they're about to start a showdown, both already lining up excuses for the loss they know is coming. While Cyril frets that Satsuki might hurt the princess, Will stays stone calm and tells him this won't even turn into a real battle. Satsuki explodes forward, screaming like a storm breaking loose. And then, just like that, everything vanished in a blink of motion. Eileen's suddenly behind her, wooden blade pressed softly right against her neck. Satsuki's jaw drops. She's totally stunned by the princess's wild, impossible speed and razor-sharp skill. This isn't just some empty rage, this is a real warrior forged in battle. Later, tucked inside the castle and finally able to breathe, Cyril can't stop thinking, Eileen's power isn't just impressive, it's on the same level as the Imperial Knights wiping the floor with their whole party of E-ranks. Satsuki, far from giving up, gets fueled by the loss and rips into a furious vow she's going to win their next fight. A raw burst of confidence that'll make everyone stare, quietly admiring from the sidelines. Their playful banter snaps in half when Eileen suddenly demands why they're here, and promises to hand them the incriminating letter. Right then, a thunderous voice crashes through the room and a huge, power-packed man storms in, grinning as he greets Will as King Andrew. But the king's grin dies the instant he lays eyes on that letter. Rage twists his face as he bellows that he won't let those filthy pigs ruin his precious country, and he officially orders Knight Eileen to take over and deal with it. He tells Will's party they'll get their reward, and he makes it crystal clear those proofs could have gotten them killed and they still went for it. Now the mission is in Eileen's hands, and everything's about to explode. She'll tell you this isn't just advice, learn how to use people better. He hammers the point home, the king never once banned her from hiring outside help. A spark of realization ignites in Eileen's eyes, and now she can officially hire adventurers like them. The plan is locked in, the whole party nods along, and Will beams like he finally hit the jackpot, because this official quest is about to yank him out of F rank for good. As they start to leave, Will's eyes snag on a man standing far off just watching them. Eileen points him out and declares he's the court magician's leader. Will's face goes icy when he snaps that power doesn't make you a great human being. Eileen's jaw drops when he blames himself, and the way he says it hits her like a punch. Because it was the first time those girls had ever heard him talk badly about anyone. That moment snaps Eileen straight back to her childhood, begging a shy, bookish boy to chase adventure with her through some ancient, crumbling ruins. She decalled them fellow adventurers like it was a bright dream, then her tutors showed up and the harsh truth about their stations crushed that hope. She clings to the promise she made, one day they'd tear into the world together on the biggest adventure of all. Right now she snaps the memory shut and tells everyone, I was totally kidding. But standing there alone in the long, empty hall, she wears a wistful look that screams she's aching for the life she never got to live. Once they accept the princess's quest and ride out of the royal capital, the group can't shake this crushing feeling, the road is way too quiet. Cyril snaps and complains that this party is way too dull, whining that there's been zero romance, no sparks, no tension, nothing. The talk snaps straight to the real target, and William coolly pushes the idea that a full frontal assault is the quickest way to break him and get answers. Right then, his alert spell flared to life, sparkling magic forming a shimmering bubble that scanned for movement just around the corner. Sharp eyes locked on his ears caught it too, three huge figures towering over humans creeping closer step by step. William absent-mindedly pats her head, gushing that she's incredibly useful as her cheeks burn red. Then he casts a see-through spell to spot every guest in the room. His eyes lock on three massive F-rank orcs, way tougher than any goblin he's faced. While William thinks about just walking past, Satsuki snaps back hard, saying they can't let those creatures that would butcher innocents roam free. She boldly swears she can handle those things alone, but Cyril snaps back that it's way too dangerous, so they erupt into a nasty little argument right there. While they're still bickering, William silently surges forward and snaps off a spell that drops two orcs on the spot. Satsuki snarls with pure rage. Her prey got yanked away, and she charges straight for the last surviving monster. Cyril lunges to stop her, but Satsuki shoves her out of the way, totally baffled by Cyril's interference. As the chaos erupts all around him, William stays ice calm and fires off a brutal volley of magic arrows, dropping the last orc in a blink while the rest are still knocked out from his first spell. Afterwards, Cyril erupts with fury, screaming at Satsuki and William for their reckless moves right in the middle of the fight. The two shrink in their seats while she lays into them, and the party's total chaos is laid bare for everyone to see. Tension snaps when Mei tries to soothe a shaky Eileen, but her pep talk detonates. She calls the princess flat, and Eileen whips around with a death glare so cold it feels like it could freeze fire. Touching down in the city of Goltier, William lays out their next move and tells her to let him scout Count Goldart's residence, alone. He trusts Cyril as a fellow powerful wizard, but he decides this calls for finesse, so he fires an unnoticeable spell and slips out of sight. He strolls straight past those heavily armed guards, and they don't even notice him standing there. Inside the compound, he feels the magic wards humming with power, then slips his see-through ability on and stares into the mansion like the walls aren't even there. There he spots his target, court magician Alice Flamelia, his fellow graduate hunched over her desk working like her life depends on it. He slips back into the group just as quietly as he vanished, and it shocks everyone. Eileen blushes and insists she's seen him the whole time because her thoughts never stray from him. Back at the inn, William lays out what he found on his scouting run and even drops a detect lie spell, so the girls start eyeing each other like something's about to blow. Eileen muses that if she were in Alice's shoes, she'd just wipe out any suspicious visitor without hesitation. William checks the residence and confirms Alice is the only magician there, so they decide to wait until she slips out before they strike. Next morning, while they stare at the mansion, Mick finally spots Alice slipping out and leaving. She's about to disappear for 2 to 3 hours. But right as Alice starts marching straight for their hiding spot, disaster swings in. She's about to drift into range and catch them before they can vanish. Without a word, William snatches Mick and blasts a telepathic command into her mind. Tail Alice, no questions. I shot out a furious hiss at being carried like a sack of potatoes, then bolted off to finish her mission. With the tail finally in place, Eileen bursts into action, dressed as a knight and ready to infiltrate. William gives the disguise a thumbs up, mind talks her with telepathy, and they sprint toward the residence. Inside, Count Goldart paces and fumes over his recent bad luck, then casually orders his subordinate to kill Alice the moment she becomes a problem. Right when he's ready to make his move, a knight slams in and announces a surprise guest, Eileen, a royal family knight. The Count froze in shock when the real princess finally showed up, right when his powerful magician was gone. As he welcomes Eileen, William gapes at how the little girl he remembers has blossomed into a breathtaking woman. But the second she steps beside him, her royal aura hits like a storm, and William might as well be invisible. He flashes a telepathic signal. When the Count demands to know why the princess is here, their plan ignites right as they start with the total, ruthless wipeout of Count Goldart. We're stepping into Count Goldart's mansion with one mission, finding out everything we can about the court magician, Alice Flamelia. The Count immediately sweats and stammers, insisting Alice is out right now, a lie so shameless it almost feels insulting. Eileen, the princess knight, looks like she's on the verge of panic, but Will's gaze stays ice-cold and locked, never budging. The Count scrambles to claw back his authority and orders Eileen to be ready to throw Alice aside if things go sideways. An ugly, desperate grasp at control. But Will is already sprinting ahead. He saw the deception coming before it even got started. He slices through the lies with steady voice, saying he's heard sick rumors about Alice, how she's been trying to forge undead and how she slaughtered a whole village inside the Count's territory. The Count erupts in pure denial, screaming that this can't possibly be true and that he'll never ever let such evil take root. His panicked reaction basically blurts out the truth. Everything in it screams to Will that he nailed it. I can't stop wondering why the royal family doesn't react at all after a village gets massacred. Will tells them he tracked down a settlement for the survivors, but you can tell the Count already knew the whole truth and decided to bury it. Stung by the lies, Eileen, knight of the royal family, snaps that Alice needs to be eliminated. She pitches a sneak attack on the mansion and demands backup to make it happen. Count spots a chance and leans in, daring Eileen, can she beat his 3 guards and still keep him safe? Then he jabs a finger at Will, hailing him as a brutally skilled mage, pure desperation meant to scare the princess into backing down. That lie hangs like a curse in the air, and the Count's face turns slick with sweat as he finally understands just how far he's fallen. He goes for broke, shrieking that the mage is tricking the princess and dangling a fortune in front of his guards if they'll take them down. The guards snap their weapons into position. He simply lifts his staff and speaks one single word, "Master." The guards go rigid with terror, shaking in place as they finally clock the gap, and they drop their weapons and surrender on the spot. The Count crumples into a heap, whining that fate robbed him, staring at that power like his mind can't process what he just saw. The guards had him tied up tight, and when the Count breaks down into a blubbering wreck, he'll demand to know why he let his own people get slaughtered. The Count weakly points the finger at Alice, screaming that she tricked him. Then Eileen snaps into fury, demanding a real reason for what he did to those innocent lives. The pathetic noble finally spits it out. He'd been totally hooked on Alice, and that little slit in her skirt sent him over the edge, so he hands her everything she asks for. Can you believe a massacre erupted over something this petty? But the Count keeps talking, how Alice swore she'd hand him an army of undead the moment her research paid off. Eileen's rage rockets out of control, and only a physical restraint keeps her from murdering that man right where he stands. The Count, totally blind to how close death is, then has the nerve to judge the princess's figure, and that's when she snaps, threatening to kill him for real. After he tangled with the Count and right in the middle of it, wrecked his 1,000 gold coin carriage by pure accident. You'll learn this the hard way. Alice has already bolted from the city. The party gears up to sprint after them, but Eileen first insists she'll stay back and keep watch over the Count. Satsuki stepped in fast, clapped her with a hard slap and basically told her, "I've got news, you're already one of us, so you're coming with us." With renewed fire in their hearts, the group charges out, ready to fight their way through the decisive battle. They tail Alice right into a forest clearing, only to find it sealed off by a deadly alert barrier that won't let anyone slip through. Will clocks it as a missile deflection spell and dodges the flashy show, choosing a quiet, calculated move instead. Inside a cramped little hut, Alice's wizard eye snaps open and spots them instantly. As a test, he loosed a single magic arrow, blasting her magical probe apart and proving his suspicions were right. Amused by that cheeky adventurer mage, Alice smirks and starts plotting her counterattack. Party members lock onto a tiny shed, certain it's the source of the magic. Where Miai stumbles on a glaring trapdoor hidden right in plain sight. That deep darkness down there feels completely wrong. We'll hurl an expensive sea through the spell, and with a blinding glow, it lights up a ladder plunging straight into the unknown. Because the spell can't reach far, Alice might be lurking just past that door at the bottom. Satsuki can barely wait to burst in, smash the darkness, and send evil packing. But if you really look closer, justice turns out to be a relative idea, something that shifts quietly depending on who's watching. They plunge into the dark and spot Alice already waiting for them. She stands staring at a bizarre wall that hums with raw magical energy. With a mocking grin, she drags them into her research lab, beckoning them closer, because she wants their corpses to power her next breakthrough. Satsuki digs in her heels and gets ready to unleash a full-on charge. But it'll keep her from realizing that wall is a brutal, mind-bending illusion. Right before he tries to crush it, Alice leans in and taunts Eileen, calling her a total failure from the Institute. With a dramatic flourish, she unveils her masterpiece, and the illusion shatters to reveal a full army of 20 zombies, each gripping a longbow, proving necromancy can do the impossible. Dead silent archers hold their breath, arrows nocked, ready to strike. A chilling reminder of her forbidden research hangs in the air, and the party instantly scrambles together to hammer out a plan. Impatient Alice hurls herself into her counter magic, smugly sure she's about to win. Satsuki surges ahead, charging full force, and Will shoots back, promising, "I've got your back." Their plan is locked in. If they can pull the wool over Alice's eyes right now, they've basically won the whole fight. Alice Flamely's tale didn't start with hatred, it started with crushing loneliness, growing up in a family that treated her like a beautiful doll, a walking billboard for their business. When her tiny only companion died, her parents' calm offer of a replacement hit like a wrecking ball and shattered her whole world. For Alice, no one could ever fill that space. That spark of emotion lit a dark obsession in her, and she dove into forbidden golem magic, starting with one simple, forbidden book. Even with the Witchcraft Institute staring her down, she marched forward anyway, then swore off every single undead-related spell. But her dream world, one where replacements never existed and loss never touched her, was forged on this exact forbidden secret. Her parents found the terrifying truth hidden in the wreckage of her gruesome experiments, and panic hit them like a punch. The girl they knew was gone, swapped out for a ruthless researcher who'd do anything for her work, clawing for more corpses to squeeze out more data. She swore to pour her entire heart, body, and soul into her research, leaving nothing behind, shoving her parents into a frantic cover-up to hide her brutal atrocities. When she finally saw her family was a dead end, she snapped up a new patron, Count Goldart. With her support behind her, she trapped a band of adventurers in her web, dragging them forward to smash her plans. With a jubilant scream, she snapped her trap shut. Then a whole army of undead skeletons burst free, and she laughed that the adventurers were done for. But her victory didn't last. Her whole undead army got wiped out in a single flash of light. Will and his crew had already seen it coming. Satsuki's lightning-fast thinking flipped the whole situation right on the spot. Alice reeled in shock, stunned that a simple adventure or party could outsmart her, while her researchers' razor focus stood no chance against their years of daily battle experience. Just as she tried to catch her breath, a burst of fire magic slammed into her, swallowing her whole. A mage she thought could only deflect missiles suddenly unleashed an attack she never saw coming. Will coolly finally admit their plan fell short, and that now they're forced to clash head-on. Satsuki lunged forward and smashed her blade into Alice's hastily conjured force field, cracks spreading with a loud snap. The party's cleric hurled a second force field up, slam-cutting off Alice's only way out, while the other members relentlessly tore at her defenses. Desperate Alice slammed down her trump card, an earth-shaking spell named Lord Undead ***. But it blew up in her face, purging her own creations and stripping her of every last defense. The moment she realized she'd have to drop her life's work and bolt, icy dread slammed into her chest. But no way were we letting her slip away. He unleashed a storm of magic arrows and she snapped back with her own, calm, deadly, and convinced the duel was hers to win since their spells were identical. Her confidence crumbled the moment he loosed 3 arrows at once. That move proved he wasn't just some mage, it showed he was a powerhouse wizard. We knew Alice was on the edge of running out of mana, and his crew surged forward, pressing the attack with everything they had. It all came roaring back, the exact despair that lit this nightmare in the first place. Alice Flamelia was the spark that set everything in motion, and there was no way he could afford to lose. Panic slammed into Alice's chest. She didn't know a thing about these opponents, and she shoved out another force field, desperate to break free. But a tiny, twisted 4th arrow suddenly flickers into existence like lightning. Satsuki surged forward, lining up the final strike. Alice's life tore across her mind, every sacrifice, every loss burning into one brutal truth. She'd fought for a world that never had replacements. She stared into the void and demanded to know what her life was even for. Right as the blade bit down and her world of undead crumbled to nothing. After sweeping the cold arts residents aside, the victorious crew shoved Alice's research notes into their back accounts. As they read, the pieces finally clicked, her tragedy hit hard, and they also uncovered Will's own battle against his father, the feared leader of the court magicians. Later, huddled by a roaring, crackling fire, they'll finally set the cursed research ablaze. Eileen nodded along, swore that knowledge had no right to exist, and stepped in to help him. She pointed to the only undead that lived through the purification, the golem Alice had dragged along, so strange it made her stare at justice itself and wonder what it even meant. She leaned in and pushed Wilta to finally say what was burning inside him. And he admitted he couldn't stop thinking, what if things had gone differently, what if his own father had ended up in Alice's shoes? He admitted he didn't know if torching the research was the right call, but in the end it was his choice and his alone. That sealed every single one of them as accomplices. And just like that, his last adventure as a nobleman's son came to an unforgettable end. He registered in Altura as a humble F-rank adventurer. As Eileen got ready to ride out for the capital, she teased Cyril about how painfully obvious her feelings for Will were, who tearfully confessed she couldn't abandon her path as a knight. Eileen lovingly called them her comrades, then the thought hit her again, they were his very first adventuring partner, and it made her beam with pure delight. Satsuki, the ever-ruthless rival, lunged to strike a flustered Eileen. But the moment she tried that rough, unpolished technique, she got punished fast and brutally. With a bright wave, Eileen vowed she'd come back stronger next time. After one wild adventure, the party leaned into what came next, while I pushed the idea with a grin, a B-rank quest. Satsuki snapped that she needed to train right now, because she couldn't shake the feeling she was falling behind the princess. Zeril burst into the room with a bold idea, an orc extermination quest to snap her mood back and flip the whole day around. So they pushed on, only to reach the orc lair and discover another party of adventurers had already slaughtered their way through. William and his party stumble on a brutal scene. An orc lies dead, and it's painfully obvious it was killed just minutes ago. A strange déjà vu hits him, like this moment has happened before, but his wizard eye scans the area and finds nobody at all. He quietly tells his team to catch their breath, stay sharp though, because you never know when the enemy might flip and become your next ally. Just minutes earlier, Lithuania, bold as ever, steers a squad of elves through the same forest, scanning every shadow to make sure no orcs are lurking nearby. She snaps at her subordinate for slacking, but the younger elf Kafo snarls that the orcs are towering and terrifying, and all he wants is to go home. Right on cue, another elf swoops in to comfort him, and Lafania snaps at the stupid couple to knock it off and stop flirting on the job. She's stuck daydreaming about her own Prince Charming galloping in on a white horse to rescue her, while her friends can't stop laughing at the whole thing. Their fun sparring gets yanked to a stop when they spot a lone orc guard. Thinking the orcs are nothing but dumb brutes, Lefania snaps at her team to ready a sleep spell. The spell lands, and instead of knocking it out, the orc explodes into a roar of agony, its vitality way stronger than they ever expected. Before anyone even gets a chance to react, more orcs surge out of the cave like a nightmare breaking loose. Lithania instantly calls for a first strike, and her warriors explode into action. The battlefield turns into pure chaos. Magic arrows streak through the air, swords slam into thick hide, but the orcs just won't stay down. One of the beasts barrels down on the terrified Kafos, but it hesitates, like it's choosing mercy at the last second. But his comrade Rado suddenly shoves him aside and takes the club's full brutal hit straight on. Bania's eyes go wide with terror as her warrior collapses into a pool of blood. Rage burns through her as she digs in her heels. She won't back up, and she swears she'll stay in that cave until every last orc is wiped out. With grim eyes blazing, she tells everyone, no matter what, this mission is still going. But just as they press on, a whole wave of orcs bursts out of nowhere behind them and attacks. And the earth buckles under their feet, ripping the elves straight into a pitfall. Meanwhile, William's party finally snaps, fed up with the weight they march on. They stumble on yet another blood-soaked battlefield, only this time beside the piles of dead orcs an elf's body lies cold on the ground too. A horrifying thought hits William like a punch. This is way worse than they think, and they may not reach it in time. He fires the team up to move faster as they sprint straight for the cave. Trapped inside the only surviving ruins, the elves get hemmed in by a brutal horde of orcs, headed straight for them by a towering, unshakable chieftain. Lithania fights with everything she's got, firing magic arrows that the surprisingly agile creatures dodge with ruthless ease. She screams at Kafos to stay back, buzzing with confidence that if she pushes her speed to the limit, she'll reach the leader first. She shoots forward with a crackling streak of green lightning, but the orc chief is quicker. With one ruthless swipe, he whips her through the air, her sword clattering to the ground as she coughs up blood. Despair hits her like a wrecking ball the moment she realizes what she did. She treated this job like a joke, and her arrogance dragged everything straight into ruin. Just as the chieftain hoists his weapon for the final strike, a colossal lightning bolt rips through the cave, blasting the beast in raw, searing light. William and his crew just rolled in right on the spot they've been chasing. The elves can only gawk in disbelief as these humans tear apart the last orcs with terrifying, no-mistakes efficiency. William unleashes his power and upgrades Satsuki's weapon. She lashes out and cleaves the orc clean in half with one razor-elegant slash. Maya sprang onto another orc's back, her claws sinking through his hide like it was nothing. But she spots a weak seam and rips it wide open, and William rushes into the wounded elves, barking for them to stop talking so Aileen can unleash her healing miracle. Bleeding and dazed, Lefania snaps her gaze up at the one who's rescued her, and in her fantasy-fogged mind, he suddenly looks exactly like the Prince Charming she's been waiting for. Ilian rushes in to help the heavily injured warriors. The elf leader steps up and proudly introduces her crew as warriors from the nearby settlement, then bears the truth: those orcs nearly erased them all. Guilt crushes her and she starts to sob, begging you to believe it's all her fault because she failed as the leader. Consumed by self-hatred, she blurts that she should have been turned into a plaything for the orcs as punishment. William can't stand that attitude, strides over, yanks his cloak over her head and barks at her to calm down. He tells you it's a trick his mother taught him, then, shockingly, the shaking just dies down. He apologizes for her reckless outburst, and just like that, she finally settles down, calm and composed. With gratitude bursting out of her, she thanks him because he just saved their lives. She begs them to come to her village and rest as thanks, and when they try to refuse, she won't let it happen. Her comrades instantly felt it. She was sure her prophesied hero had finally shown up. With his own party's curiosity finally on the edge, William nods and agrees to the offer. They burst into a breathtaking elf village perched high among the trees. But I noticed they're being watched closely, like way too closely. As Lafania breaks down their razor-sharp, agile fighting style, William yanks her away to the side, like he can't waste a second. He tells her straight up that he can't stand that earlier comment about her turning into an orc-esque plaything. He tells her point-blank, real responsibility isn't about hurting yourself, it's about staring at your mistakes, learning from them, and making sure they never happen again. Right when the tension snaps, Miai's ears twitch, because she just caught strange footsteps closing in. Lefania insists almost nobody escapes the village anymore, because the constant threat of the arcs hangs over them and the biggest nearby settlement is run by her mother. Their talk gets slammed shut when they stumble on a terrifying clue, fresh blood splattered along the path. Right there, it all leads straight to a morally shattered elf, because it's Lafania's mother, and trust me, the next tragedy is already lining up to strike. The party finally reaches the so-called peaceful elf village, then they slam into total devastation, with just one wounded survivor left alive to tell what happened. As Aileen barrels forward to throw out first aid, William coolly sweeps the area, checking for any last enemies still lurking. With a soft, radiant glow, the alien unleashes a healing spell. But young elf Lifanias can only panic cries for her mother, helpless as tears spill. After yet another round of healing, the grim truth hits hard. An insane horde of orcs barrels into their main village. This wasn't some tiny raid squad, it was a full-on army of over 100, marching under the rule of the mightiest booze-loving monster of their kind, the Orc Emperor. The attack is so massive that every single person goes dead silent. Later, in a busted-up refugee camp, the harsh truth finally hits. Out of 400 villagers, only a tiny handful is still standing. And even Finola, their strongest warrior, got knocked down for good. Satsuki, itching for a fight, blurts out that they should team up as mercenaries, then leans in and asks William, straight-faced, if he can just wipe out the whole army with one spell. William stays on edge, because an orc emperor leading the charge flips the whole game. His party members start guessing that if William really lets loose his power for real, he can crush it, just like he did when he fought off the undead. A hilarious little diagram lays out the orc family tree, then hits you with the bombshell that the Emperor is an A-rank threat, which Satsuki treats like it's the same level of power as Alien. Alien scoffs at the comparison, swearing she could drop one in a single hit, yet William leans in close, locked in, because he knows that's not the real danger. The party plummets into despair because they finally see it, there's no way they're winning. Even if they pulled warriors from every nearby village, they could scrape together barely 100 fighters, too late, because the captured elves had already been dragged into a horrific fate. Slashing through the gloom, William's voice turns ice cold and razor-sharp as he questions Finola, "How much will you pay for our services?" Satsuki protests, but Williams shuts her down, steel hard, telling her they've got to put their own lives first and know exactly when to pull back. His companions grit their teeth and storm out, leaving him to handle the negotiations alone. William lays it all out with cold, professional precision. 20 gold coins per person per day, a 200 gold success fee, and the absolute right to bail out with full pay the moment the danger turns deadly. Finola, fired up by confidence in their strength, accepts the conditions without a single delay. The crew gets herded straight to the elves' evacuation site, right at a tight, twisting cave mouth. William instantly clocks it as a perfect choke point. Inside the defeated elf's tight huddle, wrapped in misery, William checks the place and locks in on one grim truth: this is the only entrance. Then dread hits him hard because one door means they could get boxed in and smoked out like rats. An alien snaps at him for being so blunt, and William shoots back that strategy only works when you treat everyone as equals. The elf leader just bursts into laughter, grinning like he's proving he's already seen the truth. Not long after, a fresh crew of survivors shows up out of nowhere. Suddenly their numbers jump to about 100. Right as the scout yells, "Look out," the orcs come rushing in. It's a squad of 13, marching under the command of a top-tier officer. William tells Satsuki we're intercepting them together. Finola nods in agreement, fully trusting the defense to handle it. William barks a simple order to Satsuki, guard the corridor, and when he signals, drop into a crouch. As the brutish orc general slams his troops forward, driving them into a tight, deadly passage. William doesn't wait for Satsuki to move. He fires a blinding storm of magic arrows and wipes out the grunts in the blink of an eye. Before Satsuki even gets a chance to react, rage explodes from the enraged general as he bellows a deafening roar, shaking the rock beneath them. Satsuki's ready, she tightens her grip and charges straight into battle. But that cunning general just flings his own soldier like a weapon, straight through the chaos. She darts and weaves through the cramped mess, and the fight hits way harder than she ever expected. As she fights to hold on, William stays stone calm and lifts his staff, lightning snapping and crackling around him. He orders Satsuki to take the leader down, then he blasts the air apart with a deadly lightning bolt, turning the last minions into ash. The general is badly wounded, but he refuses to go down. He's still on his feet, sending out one final, fearless roar that refused to back down. Satsuki bursts forward, launching herself to seal the deal and finish the job. The general moves with shocking, lightning-fast speed. It speared one of its own through the body, then flung the lifeless corpse straight at her. Right after that, a spear of stone rips out of the dark, slams into the general's eye and drops him dead on the spot. Battle finally over, William Kamlai stands there and declares, "That's all of them." Satsuki's breath catches. She's stunned and humbled by how viciously strong that high-ranking orc is and by how small her own limits feel. Seeing her falling apart, William steps in and offers a rare moment of comfort, thanking her for her help and urging her not to grind herself to death. When they finally come back, the elves stare in disbelief because they've won. He took down the general's entire lead squad all by himself. Finola can't wrap her head around why the orcs didn't roll in with their whole army, and William lays out their brutal plan, because they've scattered instead, hunting the poor elf refugees one by one like sheep led to slaughter. Now their whole party is a target, and that wolf among the flock is coming for them. He's got a cold hunch 3 platoons of orcs are about to slam together on their position, steered by ruthless orc lords, while the whole operation is orchestrated straight from the orc emperor's hands. The whole crew darts through the moonlit forest, sprinting like troubles right on their heels. A wave of dread rolled through the air, and out of nowhere William blurted, "I'm splitting off, watch me take a walk through the sky." He slips into a hidden nook, then snaps on night vision. And cast Metamorphosis is. Shifting into a hawk in a blink, he tore through the night sky like pure freedom. Up in the skies, he scans the broken elf village, battered to the bone. And his blood runs cold when he sees captive elven women, bound tight, trembling in terror. He clenched his teeth, kept his breathing steady, and swept the rest of the encampment, until his eyes locked onto a monstrous figure sitting on a throne of bone and rock. With William hiding up in the clouds, the Emperor's giant eye suddenly snaps open and locks onto his exact spot. A wave of pure terror slams into William, because the enemy has found him on a level he's never faced before. For Princess Alien, life's turned into a non-stop grind of exterminations, and she's absolutely done with it. Orcs or hordes charge in on her father's orders, and while her squires are getting hammered, they keep reminding her this is perfect practice for them knight apprentices. Yet as she sweeps her gaze across the lifeless wasteland, dread crawls into her chest, because she can't sense a single orc anywhere. Her instincts get ripped apart the moment a terrified farmer lunges in, babbling non-stop about a massive horde of orcs that's been spotted nearby. Then boom, he spots elves marching right alongside him, and Alien's party is left completely stunned. Without a second thought, Alien lunges into the investigation alone, ordering her companions to hang back, because she refuses to let them slow her down. Far above, a lone eagle soared, scanning the unsettling horde and realizing these orcs weren't just stronger, they were on a whole different level. His razor-sharp eyes snap to a familiar figure sprawled on the ground, and he can't stop himself from thinking, what the hell is that alien doing here? He plunges from the sky, a blazing beam of light exploding as he transforms, and he lands right in her path. Alien freezes in shock when she spots him, but the moment she realizes he's totally shirtless, her surprise flips into a blazing, burning blush. He shrugs it off and casually admits it's just a side effect of his metamorphosis magic. But as the alien stares at the wreckage, the mood turns pitch black, her face hardens with icy fury, and she swears she'll never, ever forgive these orcs. With desperate eyes locked on Will, she pleads that crushing the orcs comes first. But this isn't a command from her country, it's a personal plea, and she begs him to lend his strength to drag the elves out of this living nightmare. To her utter shock, Will slid out a deadpan note like it was the most normal thing in the world. He calmly tells her, "I'm not risking my life just to chase feelings. When emotions run wild, your judgment gets wrecked." Aileen can't stop replaying her fiery plea in her head, and pure embarrassment crushes her with every beat. Then Will straightens his stance. He won't feed into her feelings, but he'll trust his own judgment and step in to save the elves, so if they're smart, they'll team up. Clueless about the rules and the alliances, they still locked hands and nodded in agreement. Right now, they're drowning in trouble. Those orcs massively outnumber the elf warriors and the odds look brutal. Launching a direct assault that would get everyone killed. Their last hope is a surgical strike, hit the orc emperor, wipe him out, and leave the horde leaderless, scrambling, and falling into chaos. Just a tiny elite crew is all it takes for that. With his plan already kicked off, Will rockets back into the sky, only to suddenly remember, way too late, he forgot to bring his clothes. Back at the elven camp, training is a disaster. Satsuki tries to teach Lafania to fight with nothing but vague onomatopoeia, and the poor elf stands there completely baffled. Meh effortlessly unleashes a brutal technique, leaving Lithania stunned, and she instantly decides she's done with anything else and wants to learn aura from Meh. Satsuki refused to be left behind. She declared she'd raise Mei into a feared warrior, and she wanted it in exchange for something big. Lafania kicks off her lesson by telling everyone that aura is a living current that flows through the body. The real key to controlling it is brutal, non-stop training, running until you hit that runner's high, then learning to summon that exact rush anytime you want. She grabs my terrified gaze and swears she has to keep running, no end ever. As Will hustles back to camp, he spots ominous rain clouds rolling in on the horizon. A sharp rustle from the bushes snaps his instincts on high alert. I burst out and sprint past him, part of her eternal training, while she shouts words of encouragement. Moments later, Lafania staggers back into camp, then faceplants into the dirt, completely wiped out. She says the area's clear, but the real orc army is already at the elven village and they've packed countless elves into captivity. A storm of dark rage burns in Will's eyes as he vows he'll never forgive them. When he gets asked about their chances, he lets it slip that he already crossed paths with Aileen, the notorious monster princess, and now she's offered to lend them a hand. The others freeze when they realize he's teaming up with royalty from a place called Glesborg, and he's treating her like they've been best friends for years. Meanwhile, Aileen's squires scramble to get her home, shouting that a young girl shouldn't be forced into that kind of danger. Frustration flares in her eyes as she dares all of them at once win, and they'll be allowed to join. She drops their defenses like it's nothing, staring them down with pure contempt. Even when they started hurling sand straight into her face. Fuming that they wasted her time, she rockets toward Will's location. His shirtless body lit up her mind, and in the blink of an eye she tripped, crashed hard into a log. Cold rain starts slamming down as she barrels forward, and then, out of nowhere, she clips straight through an invisible barrier into a dry little clearing. The whole party swarms in and tells her, "Don't panic, this is a magic cottage spell." Cyril proudly shows off the magic book she learned it from, only for Will to slap it down and reveal he's got 20 better ones that prove exactly why she kept the secret. Aileen's face softens into a fond smile and one thought hits her like, goodness, things haven't changed at all. Right before the sneeze hits, Will quickly strips to the waist and offers his cloak to her, trying to get her warm. As Aileen huddles by the fire and takes her first bite of elvish food, the others practically mob her with care, insisting on Will's orders that she rest the right way. More hooded elf warriors flood in, and one of them locks eyes with Aileen. His burning gaze feels weirdly familiar, like the cape already gave him away. The elf thanks them, admitting her body's finally healed, but her heart still aches, because her soul only wants one thing now: keep cutting down orcs until her rage finally runs out. As she stalks away, he tries to slip off for some solo reconnaissance, but Cyril snaps him back, telling him not to burn himself out and pushing Mia to scout while she works on her running. As dawn creeps in, Mia clings to a treetop, eyes locked on everything below. When she spots that same vengeful elf from before, still prowling on patrol, her eyes bulge with terror as 3 hulking orcs shove their way out of the trees, swarming in on the lone elf. Mia snaps into quick calculation. She knows the elf could slip away, but the angle is wrong, yet to her total shock, the elf doesn't retreat at all. She raises her bow, hatred blazing across her face as she aims to fight the impossible. William lurks in the shadows as Cyril kneels for a morning prayer, and her glow burns so bright the nearby elves instantly swear she's a goddess. She steps in and greets him, and he can't help but wonder if this is exactly how brand new religions start. He peppers him with questions about Eileen and Satsuki, and Cyril can only guess they're off training. Then Satsuki's ruthless grit in the face of genius hits him hard, because that's exactly the kind of tenacity he can't help but admire. But William's attention isn't here. His eyes blaze with excitement as he announces his mana capacity has jumped again, a weird little miracle that always shows up after his battles with Alice. The shock hits him the second he realizes his power is skyrocketing, so intense Cyril has to grab him and tell him to calm down. She snaps that he's a monster, but he just smirks and fires back. Eileen is the real monster in their group. Her cheerful vibe starts to crack the moment she admits her insecurity. Being around that kind of insane talent makes her feel painfully average, but it also lights a fire in her to work even harder. William brushes her worries off with a hard, icy reality check, saying the world is run by a tight circle of elites like his father, and that real worth has nothing to do with ability. He tells her, don't stress about that, because just having you here is something no one else can replace. Cyril's mouth goes dry when he hears the unexpected depth in his words, and he can't even find the sound to speak. And William can't help but wonder in secret if the toxic bond he has with his own father has warped how he sees everything. Cyril finally gets it. Eileen pushed him to talk because those so-called elites can't ever give real comfort. She flat out admits her own thoughts are painfully similar to his dad's, and she hates that match with every fiber of her being. With a trembling voice, she finally spills her darkest fear, that she and the others are only weighing him down and that the perfect partner for him is out there somewhere, waiting. William is absolutely wrecked, totally blindsided by her raw, unguarded vulnerability. He knows any "it'll be fine" lie would ring empty, and the thought of losing Cyril, Satsuki, or Meh feels like it'll crush him. And he finally gets it. Words won't cut it. He has to prove his loyalty with what he does next. They're not the perfect adventurers he dreamed of, but they're his irreplaceable, chaos-causing family no one else could ever fit. A jolt of raw emotion hits him and he blurts out that he refuses to lose them, his face flashing with pure, desperate panic. The second Cyril's face loosens, the tension snaps, and she bursts into a relieved laugh. She leans in, says she's thrilled to see this side of him, and admits she finally gets what he's trying to say. Meanwhile, Mia slipped into enemy territory and stared at orcs standing guard over a captured elf. She knows one slip could send the whole horde charging back to the elven base. No third option, it's kill or get killed. She decides in an instant, then snaps an arrow loose and smashes an orc's skull to pieces. She rockets into the chaos, shouting at the other elf Lefania to run, while she stays behind to cut a path for their escape. Lafania snaps in disbelief, asking if she's really trying to die. Then Miai fires back that she can't possibly die now because she still owes Lafania her life. Mih and Lafania split up, but the orcs lock their rage on Mih alone, leaving one brutal beast a perfect opening to slam into Lafania and tear her down. As the orcs spot their unconscious El, right there out cold, Miai hurls a sleep spell into the air, and the moment it drops an opening, she drives a devastating kick straight into another orc's head. Miai fights the hulking brutes with everything she's got, but her stamina drains out in a blink. She knows she has to end this fast, no hesitation, because Lafania's depending on her. She clenches her focus, taps into her aura for the very first time, and suddenly her body feels weightless, like gravity just vanished. But just as she's about to swing, the orcs snap around and bolt for their lives. From my side of the battlefield, a mysterious force crashes in from nowhere and obliterates them in a single heartbeat. Lithania spots a lightning-fast twitch of movement. Every one of Miai's joints snaps into perfect alignment, like a technique that's impossible for anyone to fully understand. Kicking with a brand new rush of power, she snaps forward like a comet, blazing past with blinding speed and carving through the last orcs with pure, contemptuous ease. Battle finally crashes to a close. It's over. But when the adrenaline finally dies down, exhaustion crashes over her and she drops to the ground. She grits her teeth, fighting to pull herself upright, determined to slam through her mission before it's too late. Satsuki's sharp voice slices through the haze and the whole party comes rushing in, lured by the commotion. Eileen Poltz completely missed it as Miai weakly pointed at the elf they'd managed to save. Cyril rushes to Lefania's side and tells her with total confidence that she's going to be okay. Satsuki and Eileen watched Mia light up with her very first aura and they both figured it out fast. She just has to shove past her limits to master it. William's mind snaps the pieces together. Those orcs had to have already stumbled onto the elves' old base. Mia's guilt crushes her as she swears her actions only made everything worse, but the now-awake Lafania snaps back and proves her wrong. She admits she was ready to die, but Miai's desperate fight lit something back up in her and she rose from the edge with fresh life. She grabs my gratitude, calls me her little savior, and then, bam, she drops out again. William flashes a proud smile and pats me firmly on the head. After the hellos are finally done, Lafania breaks down in tears of pure joy and shouts that Meh has turned into an amazing warrior. The tension suddenly lifts when Eileen bluntly shoots a question about William's marital status, and it completely throws him off right away. Lafania finally spills that she'd been hoping she'd get to join his so-called harem. But their laughter gets shredded the moment a frantic scout bursts into camp, sprinting like something chasing him. Dire news hits. Now the orcs are surging into motion. The piece explodes into action the second word hits. An orc platoon is rolling out led by their commander, the upper variant orc lord, charging straight for the elves' old base. Finola spells out the ugly truth. Around 30 to 40 orcs circle in a brutal defensive aura, and they're only a third of the enemy's real main force. With just 30 elf warriors, the odds look brutal, and she can't stop worrying about a brutal head-on clash, especially when the orcs might have tracked their battered strength with deadly intel. But here's their ace in the hole: these orcs have zero clue about how strong they really are or where they're hiding. There's only one way out: tear through everything in a ruthless slaughter, so not a single secret gets out. Will coldly notes that yesterday's rain left the muddy ground in the perfect condition for their plans. Suddenly, Lefania rockets into action, a lightning-fast blur ripping through the trees. Moments later, she bursts back in and tells them the orcs will most likely march straight into the trap she laid. As they crouch in the bushes, watching the brutal horde charge closer and closer, it's revealed that Will built a perfect, flawless illusion of Lefania, pure bait to lure them in. Lefania is mortified. He messed up Finola's bust size on the replica by accident, and he's just hoping Eileen isn't around to witness the whole disaster. The roost goes to work, and the orc lord keeps his eyes locked on his troops as they march right into the illusion. Like you said, the orcs slam the brakes and stop cold, wary that a trap could be waiting for them inside that cave. Stuck there in the mud, they became sitting ducks, easy prey for anyone with bad intentions. As Lafania slides into position, Will snaps that she can't let her guard down. Right behind the lines, Eileen slips up to Will and pokes fun at him for ending up alone with Lafania, until Will snaps, cutting her off mid-sentence. He gratefully thanked her for standing by him. He replays that secret talk in his head, when he demanded she craft a perfect illusion of herself and swore he'd shield her no matter what came for her. Talk's done. Unleash is about to unleash his magic. A brutal blizzard spell crashes down on the packed-up orcs, hammering them with pure devastation, tossing them down like icy rain, shattering everything into frozen shards. Even as the spell chews through the orc ranks, the elves cowering in hiding can't believe their eyes. Some of the surviving orcs suddenly burst apart from the inside. The enemy force crumbled into chaos. Lefania barks the command, and a storm of elven arrows crashes down on the survivors. As the cleanup gets going, the orc lord charges straight at Eileen, barreling in like a nightmare, who definitely parries every attack, her movements flowing like a survival dance. She yells to Will that the creature's defensive aura is so brutal she can't risk landing a killing strike. Will ever compose calmly declares it's under control and fires a single magic arrow to tip the scales, while the other elves hunt down every last straggler. Soon the battlefield goes dead quiet as the final orc drops for good. Finola wipes out every threat with 0 casualties and declares it a clean, effortless victory. But before the celebration can even breathe, he slams it shut and snaps that they're leaving right now. He slams his fist down and names the next target, the orc base and even the orc emperor himself, leaving the elves utterly stunned by the sheer nerve of his audacity. Cyril erupts in fury, demanding answers for the reckless plan. Eileen calmly lays out Will's logic: strike right now before the orcs start catching on. The real nightmare is Will's condition. He's already burned through more than 30% of his mana, and getting it back isn't quick. It'll take hours. Attacking right now is a massive gamble. If the orcs catch wind, they'll have to leave the hostages behind. With tension cracking in the air, Lafania clenches her fist and vows she'll never be a burden again, she'll fight for her place with everything she's got. Right then, Satsuki burst out with a brilliant, seriously ridiculous plan, strapped into a makeshift hammock Will should rest while they travel. Then Finola steps in with a game-changing fix, an infamous elven magic potion, the kind of legendary stuff that turns everything around. A legendary secret treasure, forged from the world tree's nectar, so powerful it can refill your mana in an instant. And it was so valuable that it fetched a jaw-dropping 50 gold coins. Finola tells him she snatched it straight from the treasury during the attack, because she swore their first payment was nowhere close to what it deserved. With their main weapon restored to full power, they launched straight toward the final battle. Will cast a disguise spell, turn into an orc, then march into the enemy camp, while his whole party stays tied up like captives behind us. The act is so perfect it fools the guards without a single clue. Thanks to a busted-up language spell, even as the girls have to stomach the gut-churning horror of orcs tearing into elven bodies. They finally stumble into the orc emperor's lair, and there he is, sprawled on his throne like he's untouchable. With telepathy, Finola gets the signal. She knows the assault is about to hit any second. But right as he's about to reach him, the Ember's eyes suddenly snap open. His razor-sharp nose catches the scent of humans and he erupts in a savage roar, raging for answers. Who is William, really? Gig's over right on the spot, the girls tear through their restraints. Then he rips off his disguise as the Emperor, sneers at them like they're helpless prey because they walked straight into his jaws. He's impressed to the point of a grin. 3 of them can use aura and their courage proves it. But Will doesn't bat an eye. He issues a brutal challenge to every orc in the settlement: step up and face him or die. The Emperor tried to crush them by sheer numbers, playing the numbers game like a master strategist. But is it already planning for that? He thrusts his staff into the air and rips open a colossal dimension gate right out of the earth. Blasting the Orc Emperor with the truth, too late, the world's already slipped out of reach. The massive gate slams shut with a thunderous boom, trapping the Emperor and his elite guard in a sealed battlefield, cut off from the rest of the army and primed for their final clash. William lays out the whole plan with ice-cold precision. They'll disguise themselves, slip into the enemy camp under cover of darkness, and hit the orcs' central command to ignite chaos from the inside. First, crack open a dimension gate and lock the orcs out so they can't fully regroup. He'll chant enhancement magic first, otherwise it'd be a brutal waste of mana if it faded in the middle of the strike. He's going to strike first with a preemptive attack, grabbing the initiative and forcing everyone else to back him up. The deck is stacked against them. Eileen can actually hold her own against the Emperor, and Satsuki matches Lord evenly too, but all those other orcs in the crowd overwhelm them and tip the fight. If they're evenly matched, that won't cut it. He has to smash the balance from the very first second. They don't waste a second. Boom, they launch the assault, cutting down the weaker links before they even have time to adapt. An orc lord bellows and swings a towering club, but Eileen snaps in front of it and stops the hit with a thunderous clang of steel. The hit lands like a wrecking ball, shattering her shield and tearing her left arm wide open. She slips under the next attack, carves another orc in half, and screams at her comrades not to burn their aura on anything they don't have to. William stays ice calm, watching the surprise attack land hard, and he credits Eileen's sharp instincts for the win. The Orc Emperor snarls with contempt, mocking the cheeky brat for having the nerve to stand up to him with only one arm. But Eileen stands there like a storm cloud, declaring herself Glasserode's first princess and roaring that she'll beat him. The Emperor explodes with pure rage, demanding to know what humans are supposed to be. Raging at the audacity of them, grabbing this land like it was theirs by fate, then slaughtering orcs until none were left. He blasts out, screaming that it's not evil for them to live and to eat. And if you're going to hate someone, then damn it, hate the god who built this cruel world. Eileen's eyes blaze with pure hatred as she declares this is a fight for their very lives, and vows she'll be the one to stomp him into the ground. While the battle rages on, William gets a blessing. It's a tiny boost, but hey, in that chaos he'll take anything. He locks in his power, chooses to pump it into just one person, and then blasts Mia with a raw physical surge. A wave of raw power crashes into Mia's body. She rockets toward her target, blazing with confidence, because if she can't pull this off right now, she'll call herself an idiot. With her brand new power, her sword slips cleanly through the Orc Lord, this time, a foe that used to shrug off everything. Meanwhile, the Emperor starts matching Eileen's speed, and suddenly Eileen's forced to fight for her life, stuck on the defensive. He grabs the opening and hammers in a devastating blow, making her slam hard into the ground. Blood splatters from her lips as she stumbles back to her feet, defiance blazing in her eyes. William stared into the cold, calculating void inside his own mind. He knew her endurance could survive one strike, but a truly fatal hit could come at any moment, and he had to live with that risk to win. The Emperor swaggered in pride, admiring her spine, then slammed the truth down. It's already too late. But William has already moved. He's unleashed a brutal burst of power on the battered princess. As the Emperor's final strike crashes down, Eileen stands her ground with impossible strength, then shouts that it's him who's going to die. She unleashes a blinding slash that ends him in an instant. His massive body hit the ground with a bone-shaking thud. The healer barrels toward Eileen, and right as William marvels at how rare it is to find a knight who can fight an emperor with just one arm, Eileen lets out a shaky, relieved smile that William is safe. Then her strength finally snaps and she crumples to the ground. Reality slams into William like a punch, and his cold calculations start looping in his head. Because if she might be gone, then that grim "it had to happen" is the price he had to pay. As he locks eyes on her unconscious body, the slain Ember's body starts cracking with sickly heat, then it detonates, blasting a savage shower of gorg everywhere. When the last orcs laid eyes on their dead leader, they erupted into battle again, pure, fueled-up rage. Cold rage floods William's chest. He swears his comrades will never be silenced again, then he commits to shattering the enemy's spirit completely. He hurls a colossal fireball into the horde and blasts them into ash with a blazing inferno. His face wore a mask of terrifying madness. Right then, fresh elven reinforcements crash in, and their commander barks orders for them to strike. With the timing locked in, William decides to jump in and help. An orc lunges straight in, then Williams blasts another fireball and he gets vaporized on the spot. Right then, Eileen pops up at his side, wobbling like she's about to fall, but she's still standing. She shoots him an apology, still not fully healed but thrilled to be right there with him. The healer tells him straight up. William's panic at watching her hit the ground sparked the flashy magic he almost never shows. William snatches Eileen's hand, and you can practically feel the worry pouring off him. And when he touches her, she melts on the spot, praying she can freeze this moment and stay like this forever. He tells her she should help treat the wounded since it's made for her, and she bursts into agreement with overwhelming joy. It hit him like a memory flash, seeing it was like yanking him straight back to their childhood. A few hours later, the battlefield goes dead quiet. Enemies lie everywhere, unmoving on the ground. The lead elf practically showers them in gratitude, thrusting a heavy bag at their hands, packed with twice the gold they were promised. The whole group is bursting with pure joy over that massive amount of money. The elf booms that William and his crew are heroes, and now their legend will be carried and retold forever among her people. Eileen spills the truth. William has always dreamed of becoming a hero, and the moment she says it, his face burns and he can't stop blushing. Elf Commander Lefania closes the distance and plants a kiss on his cheek. And he thanked his hero, flashing a brilliant smile like it meant everything. Eileen wears pure frustration on her face, and a shimmering illusion of herself in full armor materializes right behind her. William then drops a catastrophic joke, saying he always saw Eileen as a friend of the same gender. Comment so brutally unfunny that Eileen can't take it anymore. It hits so hard she just can't stand it. Spotting her torn clothes, William doesn't hesitate. He swings off his coat and gives it to her, and just like that, a rosy blush breaks across her face as the chaos finally settles into peace. William stares at the aftermath, knowing their victory can't undo the tragedy or the suffering it leaves behind. But their chapter in this wild story is officially finished. Later, deep in Atlasia, they finally snatch a breath of peace in the chaos. Satsuki explodes in like a whirlwind, kicking off a brand new joint quest. And they finally lock in their deal, deciding to take it. A savage burst of fire and chaos rips across their eyes, screaming that this quest is going to burn with destruction. After a grueling 2-day trek, Cyril and his crew finally burst into Novan, the non-stop, buzzing mining city packed to the brim with dwarves. Satsuki can't sit still. She's buzzing with excitement for her subjugation quest against a rock worm, and in her mind it's basically a giant earthworm about to wreck her day. Cyril tried to brush it off, but regret still stabbed at him as he thought about all the times he'd wished they could have headed straight for the royal capital. Just as they slip in quietly, a big, burly adventurer named William stomps up and sneers at the air-ranked rookies, calling them out for acting like they're on a picnic. His companions snicker with cold certainty rookies like them won't last long, while William shoots a leering look at the girls, hinting it'd be a crime to let them die. Cyril stays calm and tells his totally lost party, "That's D-rank, most adventurers hit a wall here because the C-rank promotion quest is infamous for killing people." This slowdown explodes the competition, and suddenly E-rank crews like theirs have to fight D-rank seniors for the very same quests. Rage boils in William's veins as Cyril keeps name-dropping their rank, so William steps right in and dares him to fight. The girls stiffen up, but Satsuki lunges forward at once, hand on her katana, ready to clash with Cyril as his opponent. Keeping his cool, Cyril steps in before things explode, telling the senior adventurer that fighting another adventurer breaks the rules, and that neither of them gains a thing by throwing punches here. Annoyed to the bone but clearly outplayed, William grits his teeth, then backs off and storms away. The party powers on through the city's brutal, endless stairway, climbing higher and higher without a break. Cyril wheezed and sagged in exhaustion, cursing himself for not using magic like levitation, and snapping that without his powers he's just a regular guy stuck with basic training. Right when Satsuki starts wondering if saving his mana is even worth it, she snaps, grabs control and refuses to wait for anyone else. She declares this is how a real team works, then effortlessly slings Cyril over her shoulder, leaving him stunned and mortified. William and his crew watch in stunned pity as the leader grumbles about how disgraceful it is for a rookie to get carried. They finally reach their destination, and right there they're greeted by the mayor of Novan, a young elf named Evlia. William puffs out his chest right away, claims his crew is made of seasoned D-rank adventurers, and demands double the reward, then basically tells Evlia to act like Cyril's party doesn't even exist. Cyril clocks it instantly. This is a ruthless test of what they're truly worth. He strides up with fearless confidence, then drops a jaw-dropping presentation on rockworms, how they stretch up to 5 meters through rocky mountain homes, how they blast crushing acid that melts stone, and how their brutally hard hides can shrug off cheap blades like nothing. Williams left their sputtering nonsense totally outmatched. Evlia, clearly stunned by both sides, cuts through the tension and tells each one she expects nothing less than work worthy of an adventurer. As they stroll off, the girl rains Cyril with praise for that insanely brilliant performance. They step into the mining tunnels and instantly feel the walls closing in, then they start freaking out, asking where the other adventurers went. Meanwhile, William's party is reeling from that brutal humiliation when one of them turns on Cyril, accusing him of getting lucky with some random, obscure bit of knowledge. The mage grumbles that he totally blanked on using his alert spell, then, boom, he lost mana trying to save a fence. Suddenly the wall beside them erupts, a giant rockworm rams straight through. It lets out a terrifying shriek, mouth gaping wider than ever. If we're hurling a boiling glob of corrosive acid at them, right in the middle of it. The cowardly mage shoves William forward, barking for him to build a wall while the others drift behind him and toss out weak, half-hearted good luck. In another tunnel, Cyril's crew stays stone calm, and Mick suddenly reports a massive creature sliding right through their sensor perimeter. Cyril stays stone calm, activates his see-through power and nails its exact spot, confirming it's charging straight at them. He shouts for everyone to take cover in ambush positions, then braces to unleash support magic. As the monster barrels closer, Cyril's gut screams one terrifying thought: it might be able to sense magic. The moment it comes into view, he unleashes a brutal lightning bolt that hits like a thunderclap. In the other cave, William's crew is thrown into full panic. Every swing they make just bounces off the rockworm's hide, and it's enraged by every single attack. William lunges in, swinging his axe, slamming it down with power, then immediately takes a hit and pays for it. His teammates start to hesitate should they bolt or brace themselves, but when they see their leader trading blows, they lock in and refuse to back down. Cyril is already here, back on the ground. The creature lies charred and twitching, and he quickly tells Satsuki to finish it just to be safe. And she slashes straight through it, cutting it clean in two with zero resistance. They realize they only scraped the minimum, so they light a fire under their boots and go hunting for more, because the bonus rewards are on the line. Satsuki wiped out 2 more worms in a blink, and the whole fight was over before they even had time to react. Cyril can't shake the feeling. Rockworms almost never swarm in packs bigger than 2 or 3. With his mono nearly gone, they lock eyes and decide to fall back and live to fight another day. Just as they disappear, 2 fresh faces storm into Novan Glen, a man sealed in black armor and his companion Cecilia, following the buzz about beautiful female adventurers. Cyril's party marched up and reported their 3 kills to a stunned Mayor Evlia. Then they found Williams beaten down in a tired group that was already waiting. The mayor orders them to come back tomorrow for a new plan, but the senior adventurers throw in the towel, decide they've taken enough, and head home. With 120 gold coins burning a hole in their pockets, the party goes all out and throws a feast to celebrate. The girls kept teasing Cyril for being totally oblivious to Princess Eileen's feelings, and it hit him like a gut punch. He spiraled into a small, shaky existential crisis about whether their friendship would ever be the same. Their meal gets wrecked when Glenn shamelessly slides into their table and locks eyes on the girls. When Satsuki orders him to get lost, he smirks like, "Life's dull without breaking the rules." Satsuki spots Cyril about to talk and, without hesitation, snaps into action, hurling a punch straight into Glenn's face. He dodges with insane ease, smirks that he loves her aggressive side, and then snatches her fist mid-swing. Cyril's voice slices through the chaos, dead calm as he tells Glenn, "That's enough." Glenn demands to know who he is, then orders him to get control of his women. It felt so alien to Cyril that all he could do was blame it on some twisted cultural difference. Glenn snaps like he's totally done with it and shoves them away without a second thought. Cyril puts his friend's safety first, agrees to leave, and before stepping out he orders the waiter to ring up the bill and charge it to Glenn. Outside, Cyril asks to see Satsuki's hand, but she yanks it back hard, rage flaring because she can't stand how weak she feels. She insists she's totally fine, then marches back toward the Inalones. Cyril watches her walk away, and the crushing weight of failure starts hammering at his thoughts. All the other girls decide the fastest way to lift Satsuki's spirits is a wild night of drinking and full-on pampering. Far from the chaos in her dim office, Mayor Evlia freezes in horror as a report hits her, and the truth lands like a death sentence. Navin is already doomed. The story of that family's past kicks off with a brutal, ugly gift that never should have existed. James Glenford's Cantrefuse vase of a higher-up made its way into their home, and William's mom, Felicia, snorts that it's lame, then laughs that she's praying it gets broken by accident. Before he turned toward young William, he snapped a warning, "Don't you dare bump into that important piece." Determined to impress William, she scrubbed that hideous face so carefully it finally started to sparkle. But in his unstoppable youthful rush, he trips hard, sending that irreplaceable thing smashing to the floor in a blinding storm of shards. His mom's face crumples as she gasps, and she tells him don't half apologize, get it right the moment his dad walks back in. Years later, William tells the whole tale over drinks, but in that moment, his mind had totally gone blank. He remembers nothing, just sobs and gut-wrenching wails, trapped like a helpless kid beyond any comfort his mother can give. His father's furious scolding blurs into noise, but those words still slice through his heart, like they dragged on for hours. He was young and clueless, and that kind of pain crushed him. He just wanted to vanish. He tells Cyril, "I just crashed into bed, slept it off, and woke up refreshed," and that one quiet move is what finally helped him let go and move on. He finally cracks and admits this is the first time he's ever shared that story, then pauses like, maybe his thinking and his father's are just locked in total conflict. Cyril, smashed out of his mind, bursts with excitement, desperate to finally hear more about William and his father's past. She slurs out a drunken question, why did he turn into an adventurer? And she guesses it all started when his father refused to pay the academy's tuition. As the night drags on, Satsuki tosses and turns in restless sleep. She's locked in a dream, chasing a shadowy figure that snaps with cold authority, warning her not to stray from the path. She jolts awake feeling totally refreshed, then confusion hits her like a sudden punch. Right away, she kicked off her morning sword practice like a fire starter. Those words keep ringing in her head, echo after echo, yet she has zero clue what they're trying to tell her. The whole crew cheers as she's back, and Cyril and Mia decide it's time to spoil that shaken swordswoman, no questions asked. Miyai offers Satsuki a cuddle, gets way too close for comfort, and Satsuki panics on the spot, then bolts, overwhelmed by all that affection. When the dust finally settles, she tells him the truth. Her master wasn't a tyrant at all, he was a guardian who found her as a little kid. They rode through it side by side while she learned swordsmanship, but the moment she hit adulthood, her own master dumped her like she was nothing. She can't wrap her head around it. Why did they leave her behind? William asks how she felt in that exact moment, not to hurt her but so he can remember it. Satsuki blurted out that it wasn't anger or sadness at all, it was that relentless question clawing at her nonstop. Why? She's convinced her master had an honorable reason, no matter how impossible it feels for her to understand it. William flashes back to his father, convinced he wasn't as terrible as everyone says. Satsuki then spills the truth: her master is a total slacker, a leech who tosses gold around like it's nothing after he's beat up the bad guys. But even after falling short as a person, she still carried herself like a goddess, and she was a ruthless, brilliant swordswoman. The whole party freezes when they realize her legendary, revered master wasn't a man at all, it was a woman. Their talk gets cut off the second they finally arrive, because waiting there are two figures just staring them down. It's the B-rank adventurers. Then the man greets them and Satsuki unleashes a storm of pure killing intent. Inside the mayor's office, Evlia, the young girl, bursts in and lays out the terrifying truth of their grave situation. She stumbled on an ancient adventure tale, and right inside it, a chilling case of rockworms like the one she'd been facing. Where a party burst into a massive hall and found a nightmare monster of twisted, writhing worms reeling in every direction. It was the mother rockworm, an unstoppable beast that gives birth to every single one of its spawn. And then it hits them: their D-rank quest isn't some easy payday at all, it's a mission meant to take down that monster. William immediately snaps: this is at least a B-rank quest, no doubt. Evlia confirms it: she already requested B-rank adventurers, and yep, it's the exact two who just walked in. With the whole city hanging by a thread, she practically pleads with them to help, because lives are on the line. William sizes up the danger, then nods, sure they can pull it off, as long as they stay sharp, and his whole party backs him to the end. But Glenn, the beer-ranked adventurer, collides with Satsuki's temper the second he tries to play it friendly, and she instantly erupts: hell no. She snaps her sword up the second he crowds her too close. Cyril blurted it out, and she hurled her own gear between them to slam the tension down. Glenn snaps his focus to William and flat-out says he can smell a strong person on him. Fed up with his non-stop obnoxious rambling, William snaps and cuts him off, then dares him with a bet. Glenn dares both sides to battle it out for the most rockworms, and if he wins, his prize is Cecilia. Cecilia blurts out that Glenn is a noble and then drops the real bomb: she went to the Witchcraft Institute too, just like William. William pieces it all together: this is the wizard their party crushed after she dabbed in forbidden magic. Talk spirals into straight-up schoolyard taunts as soon as everyone learns Cecilia repeated a year. And with tears streaming down her face, she blurts out to William what his rank was, then proudly boasts she landed in 7th. With a deadpan stare, William claims he was the best student in his entire grade. His friends gawk in pure disbelief: why is the prodigy out there grinding like some run-of-the-mill adventurer? Glenn laughs at the whole thing and throws the bet back into the ring, but William shuts that down: no bet for him, he wants a match instead. He carefully dissects Glenn's character, then drops the truth: once pride chains a man, only a real contest can steer him. If Glenn gets beat in a clean fight, he won't have a shot to mess with them again. Glenn bursts into wild laughter, stunned by William's insight, and immediately nods, but he throws down one brutal warning: if he takes the win, nothing will stop him. As they rush toward the mines, William lays out his game plan, telling his party that against all odds they're still holding the upper hand. Glenn's massive sword is going to be useless the moment he's trapped in those tight, cramped tunnels. And the real contest isn't about strength, it's a ruthless numbers game. To win, William drops a shocking order: don't kill the very next rockworm you spot. He decides to grab it instead, then set it loose, praying it'll lead them straight to where they're supposed to go. Mei stepped forward with unshakable confidence and volunteered, swearing she'd show them what a real thief's speed and skill look like. As Glenn squeezes through the dwarven tunnels, he smirks like he knows the punchline, because that wizard really played the terrain like a weapon. The word cunning hits Cecilia like a punch. She flashes back to the time Glenn's own brother used it as a savage insult. The story flashes back to a young Glenn drowning in pure boredom while his brother grinds him with lessons on noble duty: fight hard, fight with strength and honor, and leave the cheap tricks behind. His brother rips into him for suppressing his aura, but Glenn fires back that unleashing it would make everything feel way too easy and way too dull. He snaps that his stronger brother should toss sweets to the weak like charity, then quickly softens, telling him wisdom and tactics count as real strength too. Cecilia still remembers Glenn's brother leaning in and promising that one day, Glenn would finally get it and stop using people. Back in his youth, Glenn sulked in silence while his brother kept droning on with his lecture. Finally, it clicks, and once he snaps into it, he's about to learn everything he needs. His attention ignites the second his brother brings up Princess Eileen, a fresh prodigy who can wield aura, and drops the bombshell that they're heading to the royal capital soon. When Glenn spots a cure for his endless brand new he doesn't hesitate, he declares he's going to right away. With the capital's buzzing and nobles whispering all around, Glenn slips in and meets Princess Eileen. But her eyes aren't on him at all. She lights up and shouts for a boy named Will, laughing as she plays with someone who's got no strength and no aura. Glenn feels utterly alien, like he doesn't belong anywhere, because the world around him is so dull it hurts. As he turns to leave, a bulky noble steps in front of him, smirking and belittling his name, then rattles off that arrogant might makes right garbage like strength automatically earns you the top spot. Those words spark a cold rage in Glenn's eyes. He jabs a trembling finger in the pig bastard's face, spits venom as he demands he shut his mouth, because he'll never let that fool speak about strength to him again. Later, his brother tells him the noble got saved by the Holy Order, but only after they dug up proof tying him to illegal slave trading. He fires up Glenn again with one hard truth: tactics aren't weakness, they're strength, and Glenn finally starts to believe it. He swears he'll train the right way, but he flat-out refuses to let noble responsibility turn into chains around his life. With a sharp snap of a tiny chain in his hands, he vows he'll live on his own terms, and he's the one who'll decide when those chains tighten. From that day onward, everything in his life flipped, his whole world shattered and remade. Back in the present, Glenn sinks into his memories, replaying his past, training hard, then chasing women just to kill the boredom. He rushes to apologize to Cecilia for not using a see-through spell, right as the alert blares. He studies her silver hair, and one sharp thought flickers: he's afraid he'll get bored with women fast. With a chilling snap, he rips her away, and she drops into the black below as her scream tears the air, calling his name. One day, he's sure he'll get bored of her just like everyone else. Darkness erupts around him, surging like a blazing aura. The story snaps over to Will's party just as their own fight is kicking off, when a massive rockworm suddenly rips itself out of the ground. Mei lunges into action, and her strike slams into the monster's blast, freezing the fight in a jaw-dropping stalemate. The party snaps to it, both attacks line up so perfectly they slam into each other and bounce right back. Satsuki stared in disbelief as Mia moved with pure, elf-like speed and grace. While Will rips into his own flaws, he admits one brutal truth: he's not precise enough, and he sure doesn't move with agility. With sheer willpower, he snaps out his trump card and unleashes the Tame Monster spell. The spell hits like a lightning strike, and the giant beast instantly calms down like it can't fight anymore. Will calmly announces their next move, using their brand new ally to hunt down the mother's nest. He breaks down the spell's limits, then warns them straight up: once the magic fades, they'll have to finish the creature. And he barks an order to the worm: lead the way. As they press deeper, you'll catch it, Satsuki isn't thinking about the fight ahead at all. Her mind is locked on the memory of two rival swordsmen. He clocked exactly what she needed: a clear target, and then he offered her the push. A plan where he buffs her up piece by piece until she becomes one unstoppable battering ram, smashing straight through the enemy lines. Satsuki is through the roof, buzzing with pure adrenaline because the rank challenge is coming for her next. You'll see it too, the same wild, electrified grin every true great warrior carries into battle. And swears the whole party's got her back every step of the way. Their route drags them through a vile, gooey tunnel that sticks to everything, which rattles Satsuki to the core and shoves Cyril straight to the edge of despair. Will anyone ever call their brand new guide something practical like Roddy? And it dragged them straight into a massive cavern alive with dozens of giant rockworm larvae wriggling everywhere. He flicked his wizard eye for a fast scan and found not a single adult. Then the real horror finally breaks open: this mother rockworm, a disgusting tangle of writhing tentacles and gaping moths. The sight crushes Cyril so hard he spirals into a full-on sobbing breakdown. It's a rare species no encyclopedia even dares to name, and its power is still a mystery. To find out how strong it really is, he'll carve a rock servant right out of the cave wall, and launches it straight into battle, ripping into the larvae. Before the mothers can even move, black tentacles explode from them, spraying the battlefield in a violent burst, slicing straight through the golem. and he dragged it straight into the swarm, where they tore it apart piece by piece. The whole party freezes in stunned silence, staring down an enemy so impossibly strong it feels like no one can ever beat them. The crew scans the battlefield in a blink, and when they clock it, Satsuki's magic reaches the exact same distance as the mother's tentacles. They realize a straight attack on the larvae is a no-go. Satsuki finally admits the truth: no matter how still the mother is, she can't reach them. They measure its power and peg it around B rank on the same level as the Orc Emperor, but those tentacles come in overwhelming numbers, turning it into a threat far worse than anything single. As her master's old words thunder inside her head, one warning claws at her mind: never drift from the past. Satsuki can't shake that familiar frustration. She can't crack the secret technique for the life of her. Then it hits. The technique starts buffing her, unleashing a brutal physical surge and advanced magic that catapults her strength to a whole new level. Then he pours heat into her katana, turning it into a magma-hot blade that sizzles straight through the hard rockworms like they're butter. To seal it, he hands her a force field, an insurance blanket that shrugs off damage twice over. They're saying this combo is their ultimate weapon against those tentacles. As the buffs melt away, Mii shudders from that brutal power, while Satsuki senses something terrifyingly different settling in her bones. That quick hit of pure, overwhelming power snaps her into instant clarity, like the answer was hiding in plain sight. Now she's sure she can finally seize the secret technique that's mocked her for so long, and when she speaks, she's not wondering anymore. She's going to do it. Next, she rockets ahead like a flash of lightning, burning forward at blinding speed. Speed so unreal it feels like it doesn't belong on Earth. She realizes this power doesn't belong to her, and right then she swears she'll grab the moment, master the technique, and prove it for her master. Her mind rockets straight back to that game-changing moment, her master staring down a bandit who was begging for mercy. Master Impassive snapped his arm and hurled the mana katana through the air. The second he snatched it, she swung and cut him down, no pause, no mercy. He leaned in and warned young Satsuki that if she killed a defenseless man, it would stain her sword forever. Back then, Satsuki just figured her master was ridiculously cool. But now she finally sees the truth. This wasn't honor at all, it was a selfish move wrapped in a twisted samurai pride. A way to keep her hands spotless while Cyril and Mei take the hits and get drenched in blood. Her master's words won't let go, echoing in her head like a brand new truth. She finally realizes that even after getting crushed time and time again, she's still not done. Her heart never shattered because she clung to that pride like it was armor. Now she's faced her own selfish streak and she refuses to fold. Wool promises they'll crack it somehow, but Satsuki gets it now. This far isn't luck, it's because everyone showed up and fought for her pride. She clenches her resolve and swears she won't deviate from her path, no matter what. But at last will unlock the secret technique. She doesn't strike, she glides, slipping through the swarm of larvae with pure grace, and somehow not a single one gets harmed. She finally gets it. The path isn't built to crush everything, it's about riding the flow and moving with it. Her eyes snap wide with pure realization as she unleashes the secret technique. Water swirls around her in a graceful, unstoppable dance. With one seamless strike, she wipes out every larva in her path and they writhe and twitch, still alive. Now that she's mastered the technique, she whips around to face the mother rockworm, her perfect training partner. She gears up for the next phase of the fight, clutching her brand new technique, ready to unleash it and test it against the mother beast herself. Cass unleashed her flame body, bathing herself in savage heat that scorched any tentacle the second it tried to grab her. Her plan is brutally simple: slice them faster than they can regenerate. She turns into a storm of steel and fire, slicing through those writhing appendages again and again without mercy, leaving a grim trail of dead larvae in her wake behind her. Everyone stares in total disbelief because Satsuki's power has exploded massively out of nowhere. But before their relief can land, an unearthly screech rips through the cavern and shakes everything to its core. Will's face drains of color. This isn't a death cry, it's a call to come. The adults have been summoned. A colossal mother rockworm rips out of the earth, blasting the ground as it roars pure fury. Satsuki knows she can't waste a second on these fresh worms, because the mother has to drop first. She rockets onto its massive back, carving straight through its defenses in a stunning, deadly dance. That beast-sized chunk rips away, only for you to realize it was a decoy all along. A colossal tentacle crashes down, then her force field snaps it aside like nothing. Like every lunge before it, she charges straight into the impact, screaming at the top of her lungs as she lands one flawless strike that cleaves the monster's giant limb clean in half. The yandere air slashes through the cavern like it's nothing, ripping it apart from the inside. The moment his mother screams his final death cry, Roddy, the group's tamed rockworm, just collapses and turns to dust. It wasn't the spell losing power, it was her mother's final command, cutting through everything and sealing his fate. Roddy twitches one final time, then he vanishes, bursting into a glittering storm of glowing butterflies that floods the cave. He'll quietly grieve his fallen companion in silence. Satsuki finally wins the fight, but when it's over, her body is totally wiped out, like every ounce of energy just got drained. No time to breathe, win the match or it's over. When they burst into the final stretch, Glenn's party is already there, waiting like they knew exactly when they'd arrive. The ultimate showdown is about to kick off right this second. William's party bursts in just as Glenn's group hits the scene and everyone's left staring. How did they reach the nest at the exact same time when they took the direct route? Glenn smirks, claiming their speed is pure luck, and Cecilia can't help but wonder if it's really just some kind of natural intuition. William refuses to chalk it up to luck, and a cold dread crashes over him as he realizes Glenn's presence isn't an accident. Before they even get a word out, Satsuki becomes a blur, blade flashing as she slices through the monstrous worms in a lethal dance. She whirls and lashes out, carving through the beasts with deadly grace and surgical precision. Glenn gapes, totally hooked by the whole show, and snaps that she's way more interesting than he expected, then orders Cecilia to start slapping on the buffs. He looks back on his own swordsmanship perfected ages ago until it turns into pure boredom with no challenge left to chase. But this woman's technique, it's on a whole other level, the single most jaw-dropping display of power he's ever seen. William locks eyes with her and knows she's a top-tier wizard, but Glenn only sees a fresh challenge. He roars, then throws himself into the fight to make her prove more. With every kill piling up, Cecilia snaps that the two warriors are stealing their subjugation tally until a rival adventurer cuts in fast, yelling at her to keep her beast leashed. With every adult monster packed into one spot, the slaughter turns razor efficient. Satsuki keeps up her rampage, launching through the air and carving through multiple worms in one smooth, unstoppable slash. The fight finally crashes to a stop, leaving the ground choked with corpses. Then Satsuki snaps around to Glenn, furious, and demands what he's after. He steps forward and declares, "I'm Glenn McDowellin," and she grudgingly relents. "Satsuki," she finally says. He smirks at her, urging her to remember his name, because he wants it etched in her mind. When the dust finally clears, the one question everyone's screaming, who actually won that match, hangs there in the air. Glenn finally spills his real plan, admitting right from the start the rules were meant to be hazy on purpose. And the winner is whatever he decides, no questions, no debate. As William's party explodes in rage, Glenn charges right back, roaring that of course his team was going to win, those rules were basically begging for it. But William realizes the truth. Glenn already clocked their kill counts, and even as Glenn played along, he silently admitted defeat because the man can't lie to himself. As a prize, Glenn slings William an ancient spellbook he unearthed from long-forgotten ruins. He hands it over as a replacement for Cecilia's contract, then sneers that it's got inferior social value. Everyone freezes in shock, realizing that artifact is worth a fortune, but Glenn doesn't bat an eye. He just orders William to meet him at the bar where it all started. He smiled, then invited the intrigued Cecilia to grab a drink too. William starts out refusing, then his eyes lock on a weird, spotless cut on one carcass, one that definitely wasn't made by a blade. His interest spikes, he blurts that he's got a few complaints to air, then declares he's heading straight to the bar after all. Satsuki, meanwhile, is flying high, finally certain she's cracked her master's secret technique. Her smile fades fast when she admits that even if she masters it all, it still won't bring her master back. She got ditched with nothing but a coat, a catting, and a brutal letter that basically told her, "You're on your own now." The memory of her lonely survival still claws at her, and that nagging question, why she got abandoned, won't ever let her go. She'd been praying that mastering this technique would be the one thing that finally brought them back together. William cuts through her thoughts and blurts out that her hand-woven coat is a priceless antique from way before the cloth form spell ever revolutionized clothing. He tells her if they truly meant you harm, your master never would have left something this precious in your hands. Those words yank her back to the moment her master found her starving in the forest and pressed food into her hands. And Satsuki finally gets it. Her smile blooms as the years of fighting click into place, and she realizes she's been rewarded at last. After they score the win, the whole party barrels to an inn to clean up and regroup. Before they even headed to the bar, Glenn dropped a quick mention. Glenn taps his foot with impatience, and the second he and William finally sit down, Satsuki and the others swoop in and drag Cecilia off for a girls' night. While Glenn takes a bite of the bar's priciest, strangest delicacy, Cecilia gets stuffed with drinks while her old academy ranking becomes everyone's favorite target for relentless teasing. Questions get way more personal, and then she's grilled about her relationship with Alice Flameria. Cecilia bears her past. Back in her little village she was always top of the charts, but the moment she stepped into the Witchcraft Institute, her confidence shattered. There she crossed paths with the stunning, mysterious Alice, and everyone whispered dark rumors around her like a shadow. People flocked to Alice's power like moths to a blazing flame, because they couldn't resist, and it almost always ended in disaster. Cecilia's shadow wrapped around her, and all she could feel was raw, boiling frustration. One day she snapped, hit the ground with conviction, and declared, "I'm going to be number one, the only one." Alice smirked, eyes sparkling with ambition, and told Cecilia she'd never turn her into one of her dolls. Alice's shadow lit a fire under Cecilia, and step by step she leveled up, until she finally graduated and became the court magician for Count Macdallan. There she ran into the Count's son, Glenn. This prodigy was so insanely brilliant that the whole world felt painfully dull to him. Once he got bored of them, he coldly shut women out with zero remorse, believing morals were chains forged to keep the weak in line. And still, Cecilia couldn't help staring at him, his unapologetic strength and breathtaking beauty pulling her in like a magnet. She fell hard for him, craving to become his precious thing. When he asked her to be his woman, she lit up with pure, ecstatic yes. So when he ditched his title to chase the life of an adventurer, she followed right after him, no doubts, no delay. Back in the present, stumbling drunk, Cecilia can't help but wonder if she's been craving Alice this whole time. Then another party member steps in and reveals Tada. They've found Alice's journal. Inside Cecilia, Alice finds the one wish she never managed to fulfill, being the only one her parents truly had. Drunk out of their minds, the group dares that Cecilia should step in and take Alice's wish. A simple toast that sends her into a full-body blush, like her cheeks are on fire as they clink to her future. Far away in Glaceburg Castle, the night Princess Eileen is jolted awake by brutal, terrifying news. A remote village got wiped off the map, demons annihilated it completely. A shocking revelation hits her like a punch, freezing her in wide-eyed, breathless horror. Glenn watches William's meager life and snaps with questions. How does an E-rank adventurer end up drinking the cheapest ale when he's right there with three stunning women? He shoves a plate of rock mushrooms toward William and demands to know why he hasn't chosen any of them yet. William's voice hitched in the shadows as he insisted, no matter what, that he'd stay an adventurer because bringing a wife and kids along would just turn his quest into dead weight. Glenn scoffs at that, saying it's only natural for a man to want a good woman, but then he points out William's priorities are totally twisted. He storms in and accuses William of abusing what he has, but William snaps back, baffled, swearing he's never forced himself on anyone ever. The whole argument flips on a dime and Glenn snaps back at him, calling out how he's turning Cecilia into nothing but a bet, pure disrespect. William looks totally stunned, blurting that he backs Cecilia because her value is worth 3 people, and the whole room goes silent for a beat. Glenn glanced away and in a low voice confessed that even if he'd taken the bet, he'd never once planned to lose. As William quietly chews on that weird food, he tries to make sense of how wildly different their values are. Nearby, the girls huddled in whispers, side-eyeing Eileen and pitying her for being stuck with William's clueless mess. The second her name slips out, Glenn's eyes light up and he barrels in asking William if he knows Princess Eileen. He snaps the puzzle pieces into place and the truth hits hard. William is the Will from her childhood, the friend she once knew. Glenn crowds him and demands to know if anything ever happened, but William just turns his face away and flat-out denies it. The girls confirm they've got a childhood bond and Glenn's eyes flash with trouble. Then he straight-up blurts out why William and the princess won't just admit they're meant to be together already. William freezes under her blunt honesty, and his carefully held composure finally crumbles. He tries to dodge it by saying he didn't even realize they were the opposite gender until recently, an absurd excuse that just fans the flames higher. Glenn lunges in for the kill and right before it demands to know if William has ever, just once, felt a shred of affection for her? That question hits like a spark and William's head floods with a storm of Eileen, her face, her smiles, her tears spinning around him like a memory tornado. With William frozen in shock and blushing hard, Glenn explodes into triumphant laughter, flings a few coins onto the table, and declares that he feels way better now. He tells Cecilia they're leaving, and as they step out, she clenches her resolve. She'll be Glenn's one and only, no one else. Stuck with the girls, William gets hammered with non-stop questions about just how clearly Eileen's feelings are showing. He keeps stubbornly saying he's going to stay an adventurer, and it only leaves them even more baffled, because he reminds them, like it's undeniable, that he was the top graduate of the Witchcraft Institute. He's not buying that his past gets to control his future, but that conversation has rattled him to the core. Realizing he'd been way too insensitive, he blurts out an apology, and everyone nods in agreement as they all turn around and head back to the... In his room, William tears open the scroll Glenn sent him. The magic he uncovers is so mind-blowing that he goes full deep dive, building straight from what he learned at the academy, so he ends up staying awake all night, glued to every second. The very next morning, the girls spot him stumbling in with heavy bags under his eyes, dead tired, yet somehow glowing with pure excitement. He gushes that the scroll is incredible, then with sleep-deprived hype he tries to cast a spell, only to almost obliterate the room before everyone drags him to stop. They snatch the scroll out of his hands and shove him straight into bed. Right when he finally tries to rest, the device suddenly buzzes to life. He lunges for it and freezes when he spots a contact request from Eileen. A shimmering image blooms inside the magic mirror, Eileen, glowing in a stunning, elegant dress. William's eyes go wide, he jolts, then drops the device with a brutal thud. He lifts it up and spots her instantly, nervous, asking if the dress looks weird, then she goes from shaky to stone-cold serious before he can even speak. She drops shattering news: the Demon King has stormed into their land. The whole party goes silent when Eileen blurts out that she needs their help for the subjugation quest. No hesitation at all, they lock in on their fresh mission, then charge straight for the royal capital. Half a day later, they're crammed into a merchant's carriage, locked in as his escorts, ready to keep danger off their backs. Their journey gets ripped apart when a violent crash slams them off their seats. The carriage capsized after they crashed right into that huge clump of the rock mushrooms they'd been munching just minutes ago. William realizes his alert spell never kicked in because he tagged those creatures as harmless. Their carriage is wrecked and they're miles from where they started, so they pitch camp fast, while the merchant races off to find a replacement. Huddled by the firelight, the girls burst into stories, how they tore through goblins and how they even fought orcs beside the elves. The talk swings right back to William's future, and he finally admits there's nothing he wants to chase beyond one simple dream: staying an adventurer. Suddenly, an alert spell screams to life, warning everyone that something massive is lurking deep in the woods. Satsuki bolts into the trees the second an orc bursts out, and she and an elf warrior slice it down without mercy. It's finally time to reunite with Lafania and Cyril, the elves they once fought to save. They tell you that ever since their last run-in, they've been on a non-stop hunt for stray orcs, William's influence driving them every step of the way. Lithania beams as she flashes a tiny talisman the elves have started wearing for luck, a miniature statue of their whole party. The bandages around the figure instantly spiked William's horror, because he'd told the heartbroken elves to wrap themselves up, and they'd taken it as some heroic ritual, not a coping plan. Hero hits like a bell in his head, and suddenly he's back in childhood, surrounded by books, trapped in dreams that were everything he'd ever want. A gasp rips out of him the moment the memory hits, his buried, deepest craving, and he realizes he's always wanted to be a hero. The girls piece everything together and suddenly it hits them: his childhood dream is right there, within reach at last. He admits it always felt like some childish fantasy, he couldn't stop himself from fleeing. His mother's voice comes roaring back in his memory, calling him a born great hero. He finally owned up to his dream, and when he did, his friends didn't hesitate. They stepped in with full support, ready to team up and carry him through the brutal, long road ahead. Their adventure rolls on toward the city of Adelsha, and Miai dashes straight to the Adventurers Guild to snag yet another carriage. She's instantly spotted by a seasoned adventurer from Navan. He yanks her in close, terror smashing across his face, and he roars at her to stay miles away from the royal capital. He warns her they were the first to witness the demons, and tells her she has no clue how terrifying it really is, pleading with her not to throw away her life. Huddled around a flickering campfire, Satsuki's group drops their voices low and spirals into a brutal, terrifying talk, the legend of the Demon King. Lithuania shivers as the elder's warning crashes back. Those people are straight-up disaster, real bad news, and you better run the other way or else. Satsuki admits his knowledge is threadbare, and with shaking effort he pieces together a rough picture of horned, purple-skinned monsters, claws bared and fangs ready to bite. Nightmarish beings from another world, hell itself, sometimes slip through the cracks and crash into theirs. But the real question is their power. Cyril says even the tiniest common demon is a C-rank threat, basically an orc lord in disguise. Satsuki shrugs it off and says he can probably take it. Lafania shot him a brutal rebuke, stunned that his string growth had gotten so rapid and so unnatural. Right now, Satsuki has basically leveled up to a B-rank adventurer. She's strong enough to smash an Emperor-class monster like it's nothing. When the Demon King finally shows up, the whole continent goes into full-blown panic, and Eileen's Glacelord kingdom gets hit the hardest. Sensing the danger closing in, Lafania clenches her resolve and declares she has to get back to her people. Thinking the long-lived elves might still guard ancient secrets about this threat, one's humans somehow forgot. She promises she'll be back in a flash, then rushes out, forcing the rest to stay put and hear William, their senior adventurer, spin a chilling story. His adventure kicked off with a no-frills herb hunt in the remote village of McDalen. When they finally arrived, the village went deathly silent, and that foul, strange stench hit them like a punch. The place was totally empty, no soul in sight. Their confusion shattered into pure horror when a bloodied figure staggered into view, then crumpled to the ground. In the rain behind him, 3 monstrous horned figures surged into view. The adventurers had no choice but to hunch in hiding, pounding hearts screaming as the demons stormed past them. At least the monsters never noticed a thing. In the present, William shakes as he recounts his terror, because those weren't just monsters, they were 3 C-ranked demons, and that kind of threat was way too brutal for his party to survive. Miai chewed her food like she fully understood the power scale, yet she stayed weirdly calm, so calm it left William staring in disbelief. After barely escaping with their lives, they sprinted straight to the Atlasi, a guild, to spill every terrifying detail about what they'd just witnessed. They had to spell out the whole situation to a packed hall of knights and nobles, right there in front of everyone. Then 2 familiar faces burst onto the scene, Jack and Selma. William says they go way back. Selma used to be an acolyte in the Holy Order, and she followed Jack all the way to the royal capital where he was talented but flat-out unmotivated. To crush the threat and break the elite's domination, they immediately formed a powerful subjugation force. Led by senior knight Bartram with court magician Elvis, acolyte Selma, and a squad of knights, especially Jack, who yawned like it was his full-time job. Jack's disrespect hits the room like a slap, and Bartram's authority instantly clashes with him. But Jack doesn't even blink. He snaps that his life is worth more than any title, and if things turn ugly, he'll be the first one out the door. They tighten up and snap into action, ready to ride Bazaar on razor-fast, cat-like mounts built for speed. Selma's nerves spark, but she still blurts out a shaky yes to ride right behind Jack. With the princess's final word, the force launches into motion, turning into a blur as they sprint straight toward the doomed village. Completely oblivious to the brutal nightmare that was about to slam into their lives. As soon as Jack arrives, an unsettling dread crawls over him. Bartram barks orders for everyone to line up. The instant 3 demons crawl out of the shadows, their grins oozing pure malice. They treat the knights like a brand new buffet, just waiting to be devoured. With a reckless rush, he charges in, and just like that, the battle kicks off with a sly little trick. Elvis blasts one to ashes in a single spell. Jack effortlessly slashes another one clean in half. The first wave gets obliterated in a blink. But as they creep deeper into the village with bated breath, their victory tastes empty. Jack's instincts blare like an alarm. Something's definitely wrong. Right as fresh footsteps snap the silence, a new demon slips into view, small and easy to miss, yet blasting an aura so massive it feels like the world just flinched. Elvis blazes a blazing fireball at his foes. But the creature snuffed out its life with a disgusted flick of its fingers. Gaze snaps onto the stunned magician like he can't look away. It shrugs off the follow-up spell without breaking a sweat, then flashes into motion like lightning, slicing through the night before anyone even has time to react. Bartram roars with raw fury, barely swatting aside a strike from that impossibly fast creature. The demon chuckles, eyeing him like, so humans are really this strong. Amid the chaos, Elvis gets blindsided and drops hard from a strike from behind. The other knights slam forward in a blind fury, determined to avenge him. He gets slaughtered in one savage, gut-punch instant. Panting and slick with blood, the survivors freeze, staring in total disbelief. Jack fires off a question about how strong the enemy really is, and Bartram answers with a grim shake of the head, "This isn't some run-of-the-mill S-rank monster, it's a demon king." Despite the crushing odds, Bartram grabs his men's spirits and bellows that Jack struck the beast, and with Selma healing them, they've got no excuse to fall. For one heartbeat, hope flares bright, then gets snuffed out in an instant, and a second figure tears through their ranks like a death whirlwind, dropping the charging ones in seconds. Jack stands there in total shock as a tiny demon girl pops in and rips into her brother for bullying the humans. She snaps her guard up like it's nothing, stopping Jack's desperate strike, and the ground under them explodes from the force. The force is frozen in pure terror, locking eyes with the two demons. Bartram gets summoned and demanded to hand over the new demon's ring. "That's not an answer, that's a death sentence, Demon King class. They're staring down two of them right now." Back at the campfire, Mia turns deathly pale, her usual swagger vanishes and straight-up panic takes over. This wasn't just some story anymore, it was a warning she finally got, and it hit her hard. With two demon kings crushing the battlefield, things look hopeless, and then senior knight Bartram makes a brutal call. He'll hold the line as the rearguard. A younger knight Jack blurted in disbelief, screaming it was a suicide mission and swore they had to find a way, somehow, for everyone to survive. But Bartram grabbed Jack and swore he'd need that strength later, declaring him their best shot as a messenger. Then he slams Jack across the head and roars at him to stop those ridiculous stunts. As the other knights stride forward and swear this is their duty, a sharp rustling breaks the tension like a sudden snap. The ground shudders and a swarm of hideous demons bursts out of the darkness like a nightmare coming to life. Their eyes burned with hunger and they pounced on the wounded knight at once, tearing into him in a horrifying, brutal feast. Shaken to the core, the survivors bolt backward the second the retreat order ricochets through the chaos. Bartram plants his feet like a wall, clutching a lone shield as the waves crash in, roaring at the others that they have to live. But his heroic stand gets ripped away in an instant as a demon blade slashes straight through his body. With no other option left, Jack and Selma bolt into the night, clutching their fallen leader as they run. Selma sprints and desperately tries to heal Bartram mid-run, but she knows her magic can only slap on first aid for an injury that's this brutal. Out of nowhere, the Wind Demon King lashes out, dark tendrils snap around Selma, then yank her straight out of the group. As they yank her back, Jack freezes in terror, then he grabs Bartram and sprints on, desperate to escape. His escape turns into a brutal massacre, and he claws a trail of carnage straight to the village entrance. This brutal tale gets told to another crew of adventurers, and at first they're totally thrown off by whispers of this legendary love story. The wild trek toward Glacier Castle. Eileen comes charging in to greet them, then ushers them straight to the heroes right there in person. They yank open the hospital room and there's Jack in a bed, with his leg gone clean through below the knee. He stays cool and spells out exactly what happened, but as the three of them bolt on one horse to escape the Wind Demon King, his leg gets yanked hard. To save every single one of them, he made a split-second call, then cut it off himself. Selma drops the last heartbreaking piece. Bartram, already awake in his final moments, hurled himself off the mount and stared down the Demon King alone, giving his life so the others could finally get away. Even after his own brutal loss, Jack forces a smile, telling the newcomers, "Stop looking so down," because he can't stand seeing anyone gloomy. When they ask Jack about the Demon King's power, he just smirks and says, "Wherever our thrown balls land, a hurricane forms." They finally reveal the truth. Jack and Selma are orphans who grew up side by side, dreaming of one day becoming an adventurer and the Holy Order's very own sister. A brutal flashback shows them getting crushed as rookies, while other adventurers lay bets on when they'll be dead. Back in the present, Jack throws his old life aside, night life is over, and he storms up to Selma like, "Want to start an orphanage with me?" The room explodes with cheers as they finally chase their shared dream together. Now that the tale's out, Eileen finally spills what she really wants. She begs them to escort her straight to Fire Dragon Mountain. Inside the castle, she lays out where the mission was born and taps a portrait of her father, Marshal King Andrew. He used to be an A-rank adventurer until he got handed the job of the Throw. At a fresh Demon King Council meeting, they uncovered the brutal truth. magic simply doesn't work on the Water Demon King. King Andrew pitched a risky plan to win an alliance with the Fire Dragon, betting its blazing power could finally smash the Water Demon. The council fought it tooth and nail, but the king wouldn't budge. He even dangled his own daughter as the envoy to lock the alliance in place. That's why Eileen is begging for their help, and she can't afford to wait. Just as they head out to get ready, a stern guy barrels in. Satsuki clocks him instantly as James, the court magician and William's father. James glares at William's friends and sneers, telling his son to pick better company, because those vulgar people will drag down his quality. A storm of rage darkens William's face as he quietly forces his father to take his words back. Rage burns in his eyes, and there's no mistaking it. James scoffs like it's nothing, spits out a condescending apology for his son's mess, then gets yanked away the moment he's summoned. William stands there, fist clenched hard, completely powerless and totally silent. Later, Selma yanks Eileen aside, and you can tell something's seriously wrong. She's still haunted by the way Jack warned her earlier, like he didn't want her to sink into depression. And blurts out the truth about the escape in a frantic flashback. Bartram and Jack are both bleeding out and Selma's panic explodes. Overwhelmed to the core, she grabbed Jack's attention and admitted he was the one she wanted to guard with her whole life. Bartram heard her in his final moments, whispered good with his last breath, and then leapt straight into death. Selma gets crushed by guilt, convinced his death happened because of her. Eileen kneels beside her and reassures her Bartram always put others first, and knowing he protected the kids he cared about would have made him proud. Tears blur her vision as Selma trembles with emotion and pours out her gratitude to the princess. Eileen sits with Bartram's creed, knights are shields for everyone, and now she finally feels what it costs to guard the person she cares about more than anything. The party plunges into the foreboding evil woods forest, and the air feels so heavy it's like the darkness is breathing down their necks. Eileen stumbles, her mind racing, and Cyril snaps, asking what's wrong. After a heartbeat of hesitation, Eileen blurts out that Selma's last encounter has thrown her into confusion, so much that, for the first time, she's forced to wonder if being a knight is really her calling. Cyril gets it completely, once she admits she's been wrestling with doubts about her own place as a cleric in the Holy Order. She's fuming as she tries to catch their leader, William, and every step only reveals a brutal truth: she can't close the gap at all. As they push onward, Satsuki starts getting bored out of her mind, then blurts to William, "Can't you just use metamorphosis and turn us all into birds so we can fly straight to the destination?" William deadpans that the spell only works on the caster, so they'll have to keep trudging on. Right when they're still grousing about no monsters showing up, a weird creature hops into view. A twisted, bizarre bloom with a vine body curling and creeping like it has a mind of its own. William spots it and calls it an evil flower, because this plant monster was forged by ancient magical experiments. But this exact variant isn't listed anywhere, yet he's memorized it all anyway. When an unknown enemy steps in, William doesn't panic. He snaps into action, plotting a simple strike. Magic arrows first, Eileen and Satsuki charging up front and everyone else ready to back them up. His magic arrows thunder into the creature, blasting straight through its defenses. Their confidence rockets because their magic defense looks awful until they rush in and the flower starts pulsing with a terrifying pink glow. William yells at them to back off, screaming that it's dangerous. But it's already done. Her head balloons and suddenly bursts, blasting a pink pollen cloud that engulfs Eileen and Satsuki, who erupts into violent coughing fits. William orders Cyril to wipe out the effect, calming me with a sharp look as he warns me, "Sure, it won't kill anyone, but it's about to trigger something big." Suddenly, both girls go completely still, frozen, helpless, unable to move a single muscle. William Kumlai insists this all traces back to an ancient magician called Ik Pone. A man so consumed by carnal hunger it swallowed everything else. His creations are built to wreck women in seconds, and as he talks, ghostly tendrils lunge for the frozen girls, who shriek in pure terror. That pink aura he spots, it's a dead giveaway. Once women get close, it only shows up then. Cyril finally shouted, "Neutralize ****," and those invisible chains vanished as they snapped free. Now totally unleashed, Satsuki snaps, calling it an erotic plant, then whips into a flowing water dance, vaporizing the monster until it's nothing but dust. Eileen fires a question at William about why he looks so crushed, and he only mutters that this would have been great research. Then he snaps, telling everyone to move on. Their adventure keeps rolling until William spots it. Those vines are getting thicker by the second. He realizes they've stumbled straight into a nightmare nest of strangle cleavers, plant-type monsters that snap together into a massive trap. Spotting the hidden animal carcasses tucked away in the leaves. With no other choice left, William goes straight for the kill. He blasts everything apart with a massive fireball and burns it all down. After he pitched camp for the night, they finally burst out of the forest, and when they lock eyes on their destination, they're staring straight up at the towering fire dragon mountain. As soon as they stagger into the base, the exhausted party drops onto their feet, finally crashing and resting right away. They sat down with the Demon Kings and laid it all out. One of them had surfaced in Glenn's homeland, the Countdom of Macdalen. A flashback slams us into Count Macdallan's nightmare. He's desperately trying to evacuate his people while cowardly former Count Goldart squeezes him with pressure. Kept him from bolting only because a royal decree swore he'd be beheaded the second he ran. Meanwhile, in Adelasia City, Glenn himself hears the news and instantly clocks what's going on. With a smirk, he takes the guild's thinly disguised quest, and it shoots him straight into the middle of the crisis. Back on the mountain, the party whispers to each other that Glenn probably isn't strong enough to take on a demon king all by himself. Their minds snap to Lefania. She'd run to her own people for help, begging them to step in. In Glacier Castle, the elves finally arrived, ready to throw their full weight behind the war. Lafania, their fearless leader, drops a bombshell on the king's advisor. She reveals that William is her son. And locks in the truth, this legendary anti-magic ring really exists. As the party grinds up the mountain, Eileen holds up the ring and William shrugs like it's nothing, then casually confirms it's an ancient magic item. Eileen seethes because he's kept all this to himself. She demands to know why he never told anyone, yet William just shrugs it off, bragging that he's the exception to the rules. To spice things up, Satsuki fires off a friendly spar challenge to Eileen. Two fighters collide in a dazzling storm of steel, trading lightning-fast swordplay blows. Every hit only cranked the intensity higher, turning the fight into a full-blown storm. Satsuki's grin stretched wide as he started gearing up to go all in. William roars at them to quit messing around. Right then, Maya's ears shot up as she heard wings flapping nearby. Everyone snaps their heads upward as a swarm of eerie, seahorse-looking creatures swoops down on them. Their journey was slammed to a halt again by something nobody could explain, pure unknown. William and his crew suddenly get pinned down by a chaotic swarm of weird buzzing monsters, flying seahorses tearing through the air. Satsuki snaps into certainty, yeah, they're monsters, while William steps in and explains the truth, they're dragons, just the lowly E-ranked kind. Cecilia shoots down the idea, warning that their fire breath turns into a nasty problem when you try to use it as a ranged attack. A flashback of Satsuki's last brawl with a flower monster hits her like lightning, and she jerks back with a sharp flinch. The creatures fanned out smartly so one magic spell couldn't crush them, and when the party finally gets it, William and Cyril realize the terrifying truth. Without aura, their bodies are wide open to the fire breath. Cyril scans the jagged ground, then decides the smartest move is simple. He'll blast them apart one by one with magic arrows. With perfect timing, Eileen whirls her blades fast enough to carve out instant cover. My lunges in a blur, slicing a dragonfly clean in half. The plan clicks into place, and William yells at Satsuki to rush over and jump off his shield. His brain fires on all cylinders, figuring out he'll need 3 magic arrows just to punch through their insane high magic defense and drop them all. As Satsuki slams in another hit, William's eyes widen. There are only 2 strikes left and they're charging at them at full speed. He finally decides this is the moment to unleash that secret power he's been hiding. A blazing circle of magic runes erupts around his hand, lighting up the air like a summoning spell. As he hurls a brutal, power-soaked spell, heat protection ignites the air. A surge of energy slams into his allies and turns the fiery damage to almost nothing, a miracle in real time. William still feels the heat, but he knows it won't be the thing that ends him. With her fresh new buff fueling her, Eileen charges ahead with zero fear and all confidence. She slammed her shield forward, flinging Maiai into the sky like a bullet. Miai rockets through the sky and wipes out the final creature in one flawless, clean slash. Now that the danger is gone, the whole party exhales, throws their heads back in relief, and celebrates their hard-won victory. Breathing for a second, they huddle up and finally lay out the real reason they've been chasing this journey in the first place. King Andrew handed them a treasured sword as a backup plan, just in case everything went sideways. Their mission is simple: go negotiate with a dragon, and if they fail, that thing could wipe them all out in an instant. The weight of the moment slams into Cyril the instant she remembers her own father barely escaped that notoriously grumpy Fire Mountain dragon. Dread hits her like lightning. She realizes she just begged her friends to come die with her. She's begging for forgiveness, but William just deadpans, "Yeah," and crushes her worst fears. Cecilia darts in and reassures Cyril. She's sure they all made the right call, and she truly believes their party has a real shot at success. William then blurts out that he's got a brand new trick he wants to test, a skill from a scroll Glenn handed him. Cecilia admits the scroll was packed with ancient witchcraft she can't crack, but William, armed with his deep knowledge of old civilizations, can. She calls it a double-edged sword that could have easily killed him, but she's buzzing with joy because he actually mastered it. Still, she can't believe he landed a unique skill without so much as telling them. William grins and offers to show them again, summoning the runes in a flash, only to make Cecilia's irritation flare. As they press on, Eileen and Satsuki explode into a heated argument, each daring the other to prove they're the strongest. William stays ice calm, then steps in and puts the whole chaos to rest. He explains that defense and attack are handled by different specialists, so you can't measure them on the same scale. The talk swings straight into dragon hunting, and into the legend of Sephiroth, the hero who always comes back as the only survivor of every adventure. William, who's always hunting stories like this, swears Sephiroth is real and then drops the brutal truth. The three skilled adventurers who rode out with him to hunt and kill the dragon never made it back home. Brutal reminder of just how insanely hard this mission really is. At last, they finally reach their destination, a colossal, pitch-black cave that feels like the underworld's own entrance, waiting to swallow them whole. As William tightens his grip, he's about to fire up his wizard eye. His alert spell suddenly snaps into action, and a response so massive and terrifying surges back that cold dread crawls straight down his spine. Footsteps come charging in from behind them, not from the cave at all. A giant winged shadow crashes down over them, blotting out the light. But then the figure faceplants forward with a loud, ridiculous boom. Before them now stands no terrifying beast at all, just a tiny, cute girl with little horns and wings, batting her eyes from her nest and asking with pure innocence if they need anything. The whole party is stunned, because that ridiculously overwhelming awkward cuteness hits them like a punch to the heart. That tiny dragon girl snaps, demanding to know why they're here, and she fires off her best guess: dragon slayers or treasure robbers hunting her hoard. No matter what, she flat out declares she's not letting a single one of them walk out alive. She rockets forward at blinding speed, snapping the whole party into a defensive scramble as the truth hits them: things are way worse than they ever imagined. William blurts out, "We're here for your cooperation," as he snaps the words through the air. Suddenly it hits him: this tiny girl is the legendary dragon from Fire Dragon Mountain, a rare monster that can slip into a human shape. To seal it for good, the girl slips into her real form. Light explodes in a blinding flash right in front of them. She isn't some runty infant dragon, she's the colossal lord of Fire Dragon Mountain, a massive red beast whose sheer size makes everyone else look tiny. With a booming voice she demands again why they're here. Cyril thrusts her father, King Andrew's, sword into the air, and the dragon's gigantic eye locks onto her like it's ready to strike. Remembering Andrew, just a little boy, barely new to the world. The dragon Eurudora tells it like this: Andrew just showed up for a casual walk, and boom, that was the start of the best fight of its life. Instead of crowning himself the dragon slayer, Andrew just shrugged it off and asked to be friends. So Andrew handed Erudara the clothes for her human form, and in return she pressed a treasured sword into his hands as a blazing promise of friendship. The dragon snaps straight to the point, and its voice turns snappy and annoyed, like, if Andrew wants a favor, why isn't he here himself? It straight up says it'll only treat Andrew as an equal, and it makes it crystal clear it won't recognize his daughter. Right when Cyril starts to panic, William steps forward and slams down a wild counterplan: what if they force her to recognize them? He declares they've got more than enough power to crush her. Eurudora smirks, takes the challenge head-on, and vows to team up, only if they come out on top. Just as the fight is about to kick off, William cuts in again, ice-cold confidence blazing in his eyes. He tells her he'll crush her without even trying, and he's hoping it won't bother her that he's going easy on her. The party freezes in shock, and the dragon's amused grin snaps into full-blown rage. It roars with pure delight, promising to crush William's outrageous hubris and end his life itself. The second the great red dragon dives out of the sky, the battle explodes in front of them. Satsuki rockets forward, swearing she'll stop the beast before it ever takes to the sky. Her blade only meets his leg with a brutal clang, the shock rattling her arms as she realizes those scales are tougher than iron. The blade clashed against its hide and bounced uselessly like it couldn't make a dent. She yanks herself back at the last second as the dragon's tail lashes through the air, and that near miss could have ended everything in one brutal swing. As Satsuki hammers the assault, William just stands there calculating every move. She's crushing it, but he spots a crack in their plan. Right then, My AI the cat girl goes all in. She rockets forward, daggers in hand, and lunges straight for the dragon's eye. But her strike doesn't even leave so much as a single scratch. The dragon roars with approval at the girl's bravery, then turns on William, calling him a fake with a mouth bigger than his spine. Deciding the phony act ends now, the dragon blasts into the sky and snarls at William to prove his power. As it winds up a brutal fire breath, ready to incinerate every last one of them. Satsuki shouts for heat protection, then William steps forward, face locked in unreadable silence. He lifts his staff, blurts one powerful word, and unleashes a jaw-dropping blizzard that smashes the world. A brutal wall of ice erupts, freezing his companions in shock. The dragon is completely stunned, because it instantly recognizes the legendary magic dragon slayer's use. It smugly boasts it can shrug off one hit, but before it can even strike back, William unleashes his real power, multiple casts. 2 blizzard spells erupt at once, then 3, then 4 more slam into the battlefield. The dragon's arrogance collapses into full-blown terror when William, dead calm, says he can summon 5. That beast pleads with him to stop, because one more step into its overwhelming power means certain death. Finally, it throws in the towel for good, because it can't stomach the battle's pain and it's already lost. Later, while the party huddles in silence beside the subdued dragon, William leans in and admits his power doesn't come from some legendary artifact. It's the payoff of his own research into a general law of spell arrangement. A revolutionary idea, one principle that could weld every kind of magic into a single system, and it's that exact research that shot him to the top of his class and brought him here. That secret path finally pushed his impossible mission to pay off. Shocked by the revelation, the princess realizes the person standing before her could rewrite the whole world. Urudora, the dragon, swallows its pride after losing, then offers itself as his familiar, following every unforgiving rule of dragon society. William shoots that down and insists the only creature he knows is his trusty pet slime, which makes the dragon step forward and offer itself however he wants. After a gut-wrenchingly awkward negotiation, the girls tormented the blushing princess, pushing her to become William's mistress. Urudora shifts into a humanoid shape and steps in to help. She bursts the secret wide open. Those nearby ruins hide a higher flame magic sword, strong enough to cut through the Demon King's magic-erasing rings like they're nothing. With a dragon now standing in their corner, the party gears up, ready to dive headfirst into their next wild adventure. They race back and lay their shocking results at the king's feet, where the princess admits she's already tangled with the Demon Kings herself. Then the king leans in and recounts the horrifying events at the Macdalen Count's residence 2 days ago. Count Macdalen stood there, staring down 3 demons with nothing but a small crew of soldiers and volunteers. It looked like the end for them. Those demons were way higher in rank, and their own forces were tiny by comparison. The mightiest demon, an A-Lank with those massive, thick horns, crashed into the ground and pulverized the earth like a warning shot. The count stepped forward, ready to throw himself into the fire, so he could buy the citizens the time they needed to live. Then Glenn, the adventurer in black armor, stormed in and cut everything off. He single-handedly obliterated 2 demons with a colossal golem. He ordered his allies to mop up the weaker fighters while he charged straight at the leader. But the real nightmare wasn't behind them. Those demon kings burst in right then, clutching the bodies of the slaughtered scouts. Eileen, the water demon king, blurred across the battlefield at impossible speed and slammed into Glenn for a brutal, no-holds-barred duel. Even with all that brute power, Glenn got shoved back hard by Eileen. Her magic-erasing ring crushed his abilities the moment they touched. While the second demon king got ready to step in, Frey and her minions slammed into the walls. Glenn shrieked at the count to run, convinced everything was already over. Right when despair started to swallow everything, a storm of arrows tore down from the sky and crushed the demon army to pieces. Right as everything started to fall apart, the elven warriors burst in with the king's army and saved the day at the last second, shifting the odds in a fight that everyone already wrote off as lost. The girls start heckling Glenn Mackey, crowning him as someone who can only be saved by the royal army. But the king just grins, nodding that the elves' archery really was incredible, then he promises to spill the rest of the tale. It all kicks off the day before, right at dawn. The king's forces froze in front of the exact demons that wiped out the last subjugation team, led by the hardened senior knight Bartram. The Wind Demon King, the one who went on that rampage and fatally wounded Bartram, was the main culprit. Dylan, the knight's commander, steps up to Wind Demon King coolly and introduces himself, then declares their battle is officially beginning. Her demon companion lunges in with a warning not to underestimate the human, but she sneers, then draws back and fires a magic arrow. Out of nowhere, a wild storm of magic arrows explodes from the human side, blasting loose by a mage named James. A storm of projectiles detonates into a massive explosion, blasting King Flimu Wind Demon into stunned silence, so hard she starts to wonder, if I didn't have my defenses would I have gotten hit? But before she can even catch her breath, Dylan lunges in, sword thrust forward, demanding she never takes her eyes off him. He tells her point-blank that from this moment on she'll face the exact same fate as the soldier she cut down so casually. He commands her to die, then explodes, shattering the moment with a vicious kick, not his sword, and it launches her through the air like she weighs nothing. She coughs hard, skids across the dirt, and blasts through the ground in a choking cloud of dust. She scrambles up to her feet and blasts out a furious wave of wind magic. Dylan smoothly lifts his shield and swats the attack away like it's nothing. Meanwhile, the king barks at James to slam the haste spell on right now. Flemo hammers in attack after attack, yelling at Dylan like he's begging for his death. But he blocks every hit with ruthless precision until he spots a crack in her defense, then he snaps his foot out and knocks her leg clean from under her. As she tumbles down, another knight slips out of the way with effortless ease, laughing off her wild, flailing strikes. The king leans in and tells Dylan to get off his horse, right now, before things get worse. With a last, almost careless lunge, the knight drives her, Flimu first, into the dirt and it's over. Her body shudders and starts to crumble as the last breath slips away. The knights stare at the fallen demons, and one of them can't shake the feeling that this victory was way too easy. Glenn and the others just stare in disbelief as they listen, scratching their heads like, wait, that's it, it really ended with a takedown that simple. But the king's expression twists into pure dread as he admits the real shock is still waiting around the corner. Right when they were about to crush the two battered demon kings, every single one of them stopped cold, paralyzed by a crushing presence they couldn't even see. That crushing pressure slammed down on them so hard it pinned them to the ground. The king finally spills the terrifying truth. This wasn't just two demon kings at all, because several more were lurking in the dark. A terrifying horde surged into view, and a fresh disaster started creeping over the battlefield. The story kicks back off with three brand new demon kings crashing the scene, and one of them, wrapped in ice, makes the other two look totally tiny by comparison. Humans slam back into formation, then choose to retreat, dragging their wounded with them. The king's plan is crystal clear. The main knights crush the two original demons while the mages, elf warriors, and their allies swarm the newcomers, staying just out of range of those new mysterious demon kings. James gets sent to the elves. He has to beg them for help with the anti-magic ring. Lafania hesitates for half a second, then snaps into action the moment she sees William's father asking the hero they trust, and they agree without a fight. As the fresh demons close in, the king's troops snap into a tight circle around the first two, ready to stop them before they can break free and link up with their allies. Their top mission is simple: rip apart the anti-magic ring or snatch it back before anyone else can. New demon kings erupt forward, slicing straight through their own comrades. The king braces for an ice attack, then the cold never comes. Then the earth starts to tremble, splitting open as it cracks beneath them. Massive pillars of ice explode up from the earth, blasting outward like the ground just shattered, unleashing a colossal ice wall that crashes straight into the city's outer defenses. King grimaces, realizing the demon's next big play is a single, deadly shot. He tells Flimu, "I'll take Earth while you rip through fire." The king barrels straight at the hulking Earth Demon King, slamming his shield up to stop that brutal, earth-shaking strike. The demon's curiosity spikes when it realizes this human is insanely strong, and it answers by conjuring a monstrous ice spear. It rockets the weapon through the air at a jaw-dropping speed. And the king snaps into position, deflecting it at the last second, but the sheer impact slams him like a thunderclap. While the leaders are tied up, the rest of the demons slam into the human lines like a living storm. The king stares at the spear like it's a loaded disaster, one throw and it can shake the earth like an earthquake. From the city walls, James hurls a raging burst of force straight at the elven archers, who start firing orange-fused arrows at the ice demon king. Magical arrows slam into their target, shattering the demon's frozen armor with a violent crack. But the king's heart drops because the demon keeps regenerating and every strike turns out to be almost pointless. The ice demon king snaps back in an instant, casually twisting around and flinging its own spear straight at them, which crashes into the wall like a wrecking ball, shaking everything with sheer destructive power. When the enemy shoves his forces back, the king snaps. He knows the moment has come to rewrite the plan. He bellows at everyone to fall back, then slams the truth down. He's about to use that thing. He clenches his armored fist tight, like a storm ready to break. A brilliant flash detonates in the heavens, then snaps into place as a massive, glowing cage hanging in the sky. The cage drops out of the sky like a meteor, smashing straight toward the ground. They trap the Ice Demon King and its whole crew inside a blinding set of shimmering walls. The king stares ahead, jaw tight, silently praying the gambit actually paid off. As the smoke finally clears, the chilling sight hits him. Those Demon King's shadows still stand there, unbroken and downright menacing. The crew freezes, staring at a colossal cube that just appeared out of nowhere, an instant prison made from an artifact William recognizes all too well. The king's aide blurts that he never thought he'd have to crack open that one-time item so fast, yet somehow it sealed the demons in place, giving them only a few precious days before everything explodes. William mutters the pearl of Limbo's true name, the ancient relic that shrouds itself in mystery. The king leans in and tells him this trap isn't just snaring a dozen demons, it's caught the earth, fire, wind, and water demon kings too, and somehow they're way stronger and way colder than anyone ever expected. Cyril corners them for answers about who wiped out their bows and who can regenerate. After it finally clawed the ring back from the Water Demon King, the king snaps. Magic won't touch it anymore, so they've stopped calling it a Demon King, now it's an Ice Devil. Victory feels like a fantasy, almost impossibly out of reach. As Erudora and Asush weigh their choices, Erudora drops in beside her and says, "Fire should melt ice," making it clear that her power matters more than ever. The king grins wide, announcing that her arrival means the long-awaited promise finally came true. Andrew stares, utterly stunned, while Eurodora squirms and admits her clash with William wasn't a win at all. It turned into something way worse. William cuts in and flat-out demands a fire magic sword. The party's mood skyrockets the moment they grasp it. This is the sign a brand new adventure is about to kick off. Years ago, inside Glaceburg Castle, a much younger Prince Andrew fumed at his aide Dylan, blaming his endless defeats. He cooked up a wild plan to sneak right up to the female fire dragon on the mountain, demanding girls' clothes to disguise himself, and Dylan was left completely baffled. His whole scheme was driven by a sinister ancient civilization research institute, obsessing over the dragon's power, hunting a way to make women lose their composure. On Fire Dragon Mountain, Andrew got crushed again. Eurodora steamrolled him with effortless ease. He begged her to come down the mountain with him, dangling promises of the glittering royal capital and all its wonders. One single word sparkles lit the spark in her, and she agreed on the spot. To shield her from the researchers, Andrew threw everything aside and swore he'd become an adventurer. After several brutal years, Andrew, now a scarred, tattered veteran, finally stood face to face with Erudora again and still couldn't manage a win. He'd risen to legend as the martial king, and now the crowd was chanting for him, begging him to become their next ruler. But once he became king, the adventure life was ripped away. His time with Eurodora was running out fast. Right now, Dylan finally lays it all out for the group, spilling how he spotted the researchers hauling a monster seedling into the evil woods, caught them, then cracked open the truth to Erudora during one of her visits. Andrew gets morphed into Erudor and the whole thing gushes about how kind he's turning, like he'd rather protect her than think about anything else. William demands to know what she meant when the promise was finally fulfilled. She starts telling you about her last fight with Andrew. On that last day, he cornered her for one final match and declared he wasn't ready to make her his servant, yet. The brawl ended in a deadlock, but Andrew leaned in and told her he still had one last thing to do. It wasn't about beating her or turning her into a familiar, he just wanted to light up her eyes with the sparkles of the human world. Because his human life was ticking out, he made a vow he'd send someone powerful enough to step into his role and make Eurudora feel like home again. He sealed their friendship pact with a fist bump right then and there. Eurudora watches him walk away and it wrecks her, tears pour down her face as a heartbreaking goodbye hits after all those years. Today that same promise finally snaps into reality. Still furious at how she fell apart, she spits out to William that she's genuinely thankful he showed up. William deadpans that he's basically been crushed, but Erudor refuses to listen. As the clouds finally break, she grabs the chance and offers to fly the whole party straight to the ruins. The whole group rockets through the sky like they've fallen into a real-life fairy tale. Erudor decides to have some fun, floors it, and unleashes an icy gale that slams into them. Unfazed, William shoots up a hand and slams a wind barrier into place, and just like that the chill disappears, warmth floods in so they can finally talk without struggling. Satsuki hits Everdirect with one sharp question, so you're really gonna start carving up the devil now? Cyril calmly tells them their job is simple. Snatch the magic sword the royal army is still gearing up to forge, and thanks to the prison stalling them, they've bought enough time to make it happen. The other girls burst into teasing Cyril right away, smirking that being William's mistress must be a nightmare. Cyril shoots back a denial, but her jealousy spills out in plain sight for everyone to see. The girls burst into laughter, saying interracial marriages are so common that they've all got a shot, then they all lock in on the same truth. William's real love is adventure, and if the next quest calls, he'll drop any of them without a second thought. The idea of him sprinting off into the sunset alone fits way too perfectly, so they break into laughter. They finally burst onto the scene ruins ahead, a towering white structure so massive it looks seamless, strangled by vines. William tells him ancient ruins usually come in two flavors, homes or labyrinths, and then he points out this one is clearly built as a high-end playground of some rich ancient civilization. Straight ahead a stone monument looms, crowned with statues that stare them down. The eye darts ahead, checks everything and locks in safe. William squints at the inscription. Only one lucky pair, a man and a woman, can step into the trial and claim the magic sword. The group stalls, wondering who should tag along with Satsuki, and the second someone suggests Eileen, her cheeks flare red. William throws a wrench into everything because the text makes it sound like a married couple is sending Cyril off, and it instantly sends Cyril into a quiet panic. They pause and weigh their choices. Satsuki's reckless as hell, and Fumi's combat skills are basically non-existent. In the end, it's obvious Maya, the ace thief, is the safest pick for a spot that could be crawling with traps. At the monument, Yumi kneels and prays for everyone's safety, offering a ritual that looks just like the prayers you'd see in temples. While William and I gear up, the others crowd in and wish him luck. The two of them step onto the pedestals and in the blink of an eye, poof, they're teleported straight into the ruins. They stumble into a tiny, dead-quiet room, no one around, just one glowing prize sitting on an altar, the magic sword waiting for them. They're both totally frozen, no words at all, and this has to be the most certain, most wildly anticlimactic labyrinth ever. William and Miyai suddenly pop into ancient ruins, staring in shock at a suspiciously glowing sword sitting on a pedestal. Miyai snaps her head to a door right behind them, an escape hatch that only lets them out, meaning once they leave, they'll never be able to come back and challenge these ruins again. She tells him that regular magic gets shut down, but her alert spell is still running, and that snaps it into place for William. Most labyrinths come packed with defenses meant to stop scouting magic. With their escape plan stalled, they snap their focus back to the sword. William's sure it's a fake, a monster wearing Treasure's mask, and coolly dares him to prove it by tossing something at it. Miyai doesn't hesitate, she hurls a dagger that slices through the air and lands with deadly precision. William fires off a magic arrow for good measure, and the sword explodes into a nasty, gooey pile. Sludge splatters across the floor. Mia blurts out, "Is it over?" But William stays on edge, convinced that thing can't possibly fake its own death. My AI laughs, insisting that William himself could be a total fake. They lock eyes, agree to stay sharp, and push deeper into the ruins, down a long staircase that won't quit. William just stood there, staring at the stonework in awe, so clean it looked untouchable, not a speck of erosion in 1,000 years, and he couldn't shake the terrifying question, what could have wiped out an advanced civilization like that? He can't shake this weird feeling that he's not truly finished, like graduation from the academy, is still sitting unfinished in the air, while problems with his father keep dragging on. Somewhere else, Magdalen Countham squares up to a towering, mysterious entity, and he fires off a borrowed language spell just to make himself understood. The creature senses that nostalgic magic in the air, then flat-out confirms Magdalen just wants to talk. It's basically saying 1,000 years passed and the world shifted, yet this prison still the same. It then leans in and offers to spill the tale of an ancient civilization's sudden collapse, watching how this modern human reacts. It starts by telling you about two monsters of power, white science and black magic, standing toe-to-toe. It tells the tale of Pawn, a genius from the white nation who fused magic and science into something unstoppable. And the black nation's princess fell head over heels for him. Chasing the princess's heart, he craved more power, so he forged the very weapon that's now telling this tale, built to seize the white nation. Pawn was absolutely horrified, like the universe had built life just to rip it apart. And the tension exploded into a full-blown war, all driven by the black nation's new queen. In the final showdown, the queen got betrayed by the very allies she trusted, and they murdered her. Abandoning that creature like it was an enemy the whole world would have to face alone. Magdalen demands if it wants revenge, and the creature answers with icy calm that it can't feel a thing, its only hunger is to battle, grow, and evolve. It dubs its two experimental kids, who were handed a circuit made for empathy, as total, complete failures. In the haunted ruins, William's party stands face-to-face with not one, but two gargoyle statues. Mia instantly spots the old-school trap. Those statues ambushing adventurers are a dead giveaway. William fires magic arrows to wear them down before me, then I lunge in and finish the job. His spell lands dead on and Mia rockets forward, obliterating the stone monsters with ruthless, no-miss efficiency. After they soaked in their hard-earned victory for a moment, they spot another door, and this one's guarded by a pressure plate trap so obvious it feels like a dare. Mia figures tripping is quicker than disarming, and the moment William sets it off, she nimbly evades a gigantic, murderous guillotine blade that crashes down exactly where they'd been standing. The ancient being's tale doesn't stop, it spills the truth of how it got destroyed in its last, final battle. The pawn didn't destroy it. He remembered the fallen queen and teamed up with Ahatna to lock it away, forging a prison powered by both of them. In a chilling, menacing voice, the creature snarls that it finally knows exactly how to shatter that seal. Meanwhile, right outside the ruins, Eileen and her crew are taking a breather with tea, like they've got all the time in the world, until trouble decides to crash the party. And she can't help but start wondering how her friends in the royal army are doing. Magdalen discovers the seal's creation cost the ancient civilization its very life, and the beast became the world's first branded evil. When Magdalen fires the question why he hasn't escaped yet, the being smirks and admits the truth. Its greatest joy is getting stronger by watching every move its opponent makes. It used a rift between worlds to dump demons into the human world, just so it could keep chasing its endless hunger for battle. Forging a world locked in endless war forever. He slams the moment shut, time to talk is done, then he throws on a ring and declares his freedom is finally here. The language spell snaps in half, because it's screaming it'll meet Magdalen on the battlefield next. Magdalen's stomach dropped in horror as the thing wheeled around on its own creations, calling them failures, then tore into them one by one, biting down to steal their experience. And he kept shutting his ears to her desperate pleas to stop. Magdalen can't move as that thing devours its own children, and then butcher every last follower still standing. Elsewhere, Cyril opens up about her past, how she became a cleric to wriggle out of a disgusting marriage proposal from a lecherous baron. She hated it with her whole soul, so she bolted straight to the temple, only to discover it was just another corrupt den, where her superior kept throwing out inappropriate suggestions. Justice burning in her chest, she worked non-stop, outclassed her superior, and then vanished to chase her dream as an adventurer. She ran into Satsuki, who was escorting a carriage right then and there. He helped that self-proclaimed mercenary get registered at the guild, then linked up with Mai, who'd been watching their every move. That memory slams into her and she grips her fist hard, William again, fury burning because she keeps needing him and she's desperate to finally catch up to his level. Right then, her friend bursts in, panting in panic, yelling that the ancient prison is seconds away from being wiped out. The War Council is falling apart in a storm of bad logistics and raw frustration, while the Royal Army's elite forces look terrifyingly outnumbered against the demon horde. That one officer keeps spitting out non-stop, brainless suggestions, and it's so infuriating the commander can barely hold it together inside his head. He's practically screaming to tear the guy open and cut up his brain. Mr. Goldart gets slapped with a humiliating job by His Majesty babysit a pig bastard, while 50 elf warriors stand by and wait for the next move. As the soldiers march straight toward the prison, dread crashes down on them, because the demons outnumber them by a massive margin. Outside, that hulking ice devil towers over everyone, still standing triumphant after it shredded its own kind and bulked up to a nightmare. The military leaders can only sit there and watch their half-day meeting crumble into nothing, then they're forced to wipe the slate clean and start all over from scratch. With the fire and earth demon kings seemingly wiped out, they can't shake the feeling, what kind of scheme is this monster cooking up? The ice devil snaps back with raw power, its crystalline body spiderwebs with cracks as it braces to unleash its full might. It clenches into a fist, not to fight but to unleash pure destruction. Unleashes a devastating punch that crashes straight into an ancient, unbreakable prison. A brutal shockwave rips through the city, shaking the whole place to its core. It keeps hammering forward, sheer chaos smashing into something that refuses to move. As Goldart watches the assault unfold, a cold nightmare hits him. Maybe brute force really can end this. He throws the old plan aside and calls for an immediate assembly of every brave warrior for battle, then sends an emergency message straight to Eileen. Eileen's crew gets a rush order to sprint into the fight against Eurudora, still reeling because word hits them hard. The prison is seconds away from shattering. Andrew, voice steady but grim, admits they've got no choice. If they don't bail now, the royal army will wipe them all out and their comrades will be left behind. Eileen recoils in horror, her face twisting with pure despair as she blurts out that she'd hate it. Andrew slams her as selfish, but she snaps back that she'd rather have his brutal honesty than pretty lies about a lost cause. Eurudora swore she'd back her up, even offering to fly her there, and Satsuki-chan shot back, flat out saying she would never let the princess go alone. The idea of fighting without William hits Cyril like a shockwave of pure, unstoppable terror. She's swaying on the edge of a cliff, frozen as the truth hits. She can't believe how badly she's started depending on him. Eileen clocks her panic and with a soft voice gives her a way out, telling her she can step out of this quest. Cyril finally admits to herself she's terrified, then she starts to wonder when she got so weak. One thought snaps into her mind: William is brilliant and unstoppable, but if everyone quits the chase, he'll be left completely alone. A spark flares in her eyes and she clamps a fist on her own collar, determined to stop leaning on him, and she begs to go with him instead. Eileen gratefully swallows her relief and vows to follow her friend's resolve. Right before takeoff, everyone panics. Will Cyril survive the freezing cold without William's wind barrier shielding him? But Cyril's face is set like a steel mask, pure determination blazing behind it. Back in the war room, the council tears up their old plans and redraws their strategy, because now only 3 demon kings are left standing. A Navin shipment is rolling in right now, and as they talk strategy, they decide to send Count McDalen's B-rank adventurer brother Glenn, because he's at his best when he's got the freedom to run solo. Elvin Archer steps in to help Glenn's unit, while the court magicians rain down buffs. Right then, a messenger burst in and shouted that the shipment had finally arrived. James rushes in to check it out, and freezes when he discovers a whole wagon packed with gigantic, squirming rock mushrooms. A cheerful girl beams and says they're a gift from Noven's mayor, so deadly powerful that just one could obliterate a carriage. James's mind is spinning, but then, right through the confusion, he spots a spark of a brand new, risky strategy. Few hours later, the prison walls finally crack, then give way. The ice devil bursts onto a quiet, empty street, scanning the shadows like, "Where are my enemies hiding?" Right as the warrior launches from one rooftop to the next, the ambush kicks off and the answer finally hits. The plan is already rolling. While the royal army clashes with the other 2 demon kings, Glenn's crew locks the ice devil down on his own. The devil isn't impressed at all. It snaps at Tao to deal with the fodder while it stalks off to find a real challenge. Before it can even react, 2 lone knights on horseback charge in, and the creature finds the whole thing hilariously, painfully pathetic. At the knight's signal, a mage erupts and screams one single word to cast the spell. The illusion that masked an entire army finally cracks, and hundreds of soldiers slam into view, fully ready to fight. Up on the rooftop, the strategists lay out the plan. First they shatter the illusion, then they strike hard. James orders the court magicians, only the very best, to unleash their weapons and lay waste with sheer force. It's a weird spell people call defective because it doesn't bless projectiles with magic, it just hurls them like plain trash. And that's the genius of the whole scheme. Once the demon's anti-magic ring kills the spell, the heavy object still smashes through with pure, leftover kinetic force. A roaring avalanche of weapons and debris charges ahead, still ripping forward with zero slowdown and pure unstoppable force. He slammed into the Ice Devil with a brutal, bone-shaking impact. The demon stumbles back, then boom, the giant rock mushrooms bounce in and swarm him in a total chaotic barrage. A sight so ridiculous the commanders can't stop laughing. The mages get the command to keep the heat on, flinging the mushrooms through the air with magic, blasting them like downright goofy cannons. Right when James gets the warning, their mushroom supply starts to run out fast. The king blasts out a savage roar, ordering the main force to surge into battle. A wave of armored beasts charges across the plaza, their pounding footsteps thundering like a storm, smashing straight into the battered demon and crushing it beneath his boots. The king thrusts his sword up in triumphant fury, bellowing that they've finally struck it down and that victory is right there in their grasp. A low chuckle slips from the demon's throat as crack lines spider across its body, only this time it's not getting hurt, it's healing itself. King's eyes widen in pure horror. A chilling shadow crashes over them, then the Ice Devil rips through the darkness again, towering bigger and packing more power than ever. Racing toward the battlefield, Satsuki glances at a shaking Cyril, and he can only manage one thing: she's still alive for now. In the middle of the city square, total chaos erupts as a grotesque, multi-tentacled monster claws its way into the spotlight, an ever-shifting nightmare built to crush the courage of the knights who dare to stand against it. Dylan and his commanders come to the hard truth: if they keep feeding its psychological warfare, they'll pay for it, and they simply can't. They spot it twitching in brutal agony, thrashing its tentacles like it can't breathe. Seeing a crack in their defense, the commander yells at his archers to unleash a deadly volley of weapon shots. The enchanted projectiles crash into the beast, and it howls in pure, unbearable agony. But that pain only cranks its rage higher, and with a brutal lash of its appendages it wipes out a whole squad of horsemen, sending them flying like ragdolls. In the blink of an eye, 6 men are dead, and the commanders realize they've cut it down, yet the monster just keeps leveling up, smashing out even more tentacles. The senior commander watches the scene like it's a ticking bomb, then leans in and tells James this devil isn't a lone monster at all. It's one of many, all spawned from a single source, draining its own life force just to fuel that brutal, terrifying regeneration. If they keep going like this, their forces will get wiped out before they can even finish, something their country can't possibly survive losing. Cornered with no other option, he shoves command onto James, then throws his sword up and roars for the brave to follow as he charges one last time, desperate to the end. But right when they're about to ride straight into certain doom, a voice screams for them to get out of the way. Out of the clouds streaks the colossal dragon, Eurudora, diving straight down with Cyril and the princesses clutched in its grasp. Without so much as a pause, Eurudora spits a roaring torrent of fire straight at the abomination. The blast lands perfectly, and with a deafening boom, the monster gets swallowed by a fiery inferno of flames and thick, choking smoke. Down on the ground, the soldiers freeze in stunned silence, praying no, demanding to know if that strike actually hit its mark. As the smoke finally lifts, the devil's twisted silhouette comes roaring back into view, scarred, battered, but not even close to done. Cyril clocks it and coolly fires off, asking Erudora if he can squeeze in one more. Just as the dragon starts charging its second blast, everything snaps. Its nightmare mirror cracks its jaws wide and fires back with a breath attack that mimics the dragon's power perfectly, terrifyingly, like it's been copying it all along. A blast of pure destruction rockets into Eurudora, and without thinking, he throws himself in front of the girls to shield them. The dragon slams into the earth, battered and broken from the impact. Satsuki and Eileen dash to his side, swearing they'll shield him, while Cyril stares in horror, realizing the wound is way too deep for her tiny healing powers. Suddenly, James bursts in and slams up a massive magic shield to guard them. He seals her nightmare in plain sight. This acolyte isn't here to help her save Orudora at all. Only a priest-class miracle could turn the tide, but the army's few priests are already buried in the wounded knights, with zero room left to save anyone else. Despair slams into Cyril as she realizes just how weak she is, staring at the huge gap between her and her friends, talent, effort, everything. She interrogates her goddess, rips apart her idea of justice, and wrestles with the gut punch that she feels helpless, even as the battlefield makes no sense at all. James shoots off a line like, "Even the devil says justice can split people," and that single jab detonates a revelation inside Cyril. She clings to Ahatna's lesson that justice isn't fixed, it shifts with the times, and one rule burns the hardest: spread knowledge and light up the world. She realizes the miracle behind this high-ranked teaching was never granted to her, and pure fury snaps into place as resolve hardens in her eyes. If they don't give her the power, she'll snatch it herself. Screaming through her fury, she dares her goddess to make it happen, pouring every last shred of will into one desperate prayer. A brilliant streak of light bursts from her hands, snaps together into a towering beam of pure energy, and slams down onto the fallen dragon. James can only stare in stunned silence as Eurudora stands there fully healed, and he can't believe it. Some cleric just snatched a miracle right out of her own goddess's hands. Cyril stumbles, dizzy from the strain, but he quickly checks. She's fine, and he just helped save Erudora's life. With her duty handled, she shoves the fight to Satsuki and Eileen, eyes blazing with fresh resolve as she promises she's going to rush to the seriously wounded next. She strides onto the battlefield, a lone spark of hope burning through all the carnage. While the priests lag behind and the casualties pile up, Cyril starts chaining priest-class miracles back to back, ripping knights out of death, dozens of them, so they can only gasp and stare, convinced a goddess has truly dropped in among them. Then the story snaps to a flashback, revealing what went down just a few hours earlier inside those ruins. Mihai sat there glaring at a plain wall, and even the faintest spark of mana tugged at his senses. Because of it, his boredom hit a whole new level. She spots a door in a flash, can't resist her curiosity, and decides to see what's behind it. Inside, they stumble into a weird little room. Right there sits a treasure chest, surrounded by some badly carved statues, and it screams that this place is hiding a riddle. Mihai lights up the second a prize is on the line, and even though Will stays cautious, he still can't ignore the sheer, unshakable determination driving her forward. He nods, and side by side they step forward, ready to crack the mystery. In the crumbling ruins, William and his companion Maya stumble on a wild puzzle right in front of a treasure chest and a stone tablet carved with a riddle. The instructions are crystal clear: beat the chest key out of a stone statue, but there are 4 statues and each one screams a different danger: wings, horns, claws, or fangs. With just 3 hammers and 1 shot to get it right, Mihai freezes, because this isn't luck at all, it's a brain-busting test of wit. She whips her gaze to William, begging him for an answer. Her faith in him won't let up, not even for a second. A spark of understanding flashes across William's face, and he blurts that he's got an idea, one that might actually work. Mihai erupts into delighted claps, thrilled again because his genius hits the mark once more. But right before he reaches the statues, William snatches a hammer and bolts for the door, leaving me totally stunned and speechless. He spills the riddle's genius trick: the stone statue didn't have to be in the room at all. Then he jabs at a gargoyle outside, exactly like every clue, and with one thunderous swing he smashes the thing to rubble. Mihai yells that it's cheating, but William stays ice calm and snaps back that gargoyles are monsters forged from enchanted stone, so this is the only logical move. The first hammer crashes down and turns to sand, breaking apart and accomplishing absolutely nothing. He grabs a second gargoyle, and it crumbles to dust too. With the last hammer strike, he hits the third spot, and then a key finally clicks into existence from the rubble, and relief hits him like a wave. They sprint back to the chest, Maya bouncing with pure excitement as William raises the lock and gets ready to unveil their prize. Even with the key clutched tight, Mia doesn't trust fate. Once the thief starts working, she goes full-on vigilant, demanding one last brutal scan for traps. Inside, they stumble on their prize: a file, a staff, and a pair of boots, each one probably magical. Mihai starts tallying up their value, but William's not buying it. He's stuck on the brutal, sky-high monocost of those analysis spells. He plays it safe by casting a cloth form spell to wrestle the artifacts, then tells Mihai straight up that ancient stuff can carry curses. He tells a spine-chilling story about an adventurer who got possessed and called up a demon, and it leaves Mihai stunned, realizing she still has a mountain of lessons ahead of her. She fires the question, is William a thief? And he just shrugs it off, claiming he's nothing more than an everyday person. The moment everything snaps, we're dropped into Macdalen City, where a brutal battle is raging with everything it's got. The warrior Glenn grits his teeth and stands his ground against a hulking Earth Demon King. As the floating Fire Demon King gets pelted with arrows from rooftops, he casually swats them all away with a wall of ice. The commander slams the order on his knight, Roger, create distance. The demon's defenses are way too brutal to get up close. Glenn throws down with the beast in a brutal fistfight, trading earth-shattering punches that rock the ground. But Glenn gets shoved back hard by the sheer, unstoppable weight of it. Right when everything feels hopeless, Satsuki, this brand new warrior, steps onto the battlefield with effortless grace, her flowing water dance carving straight through the demon and knocking it stumbling back. She barges into the fight, eyes narrowing as she realizes just how brutally tough the Demon King is. They're about to split the two Demon Kings apart, but Satsuki and Glenn waste no time. Bam, collide on the spot, their pride flaring as they both scramble to seize the lead. Cecilia blasts a haste spell onto Satsuki, but the non-stop bickering keeps firing like their attacks are all over the place, landing everywhere but nowhere, not even a scratch. Satsuki erupts in frustration, screaming that she can't land her techniques because he's being so relentlessly annoying. The archers pounce on the opening and unleash their arrows at the flying demon, until it finally breaks apart and leaves a way through. On the next roof over, the mages quietly whip up a secret weapon, an enormous glass canister cradling a strange, pulsating flower that won't sit still. Seeing it hits Satsuki like a punch in the chest, tearing open the trauma she thought she'd buried deep. She yells at the top of her lungs that the weapon is pure trouble. Raising the stakes to the max, it pushed everyone to sprint even harder to drive the Earth Demon King back. Glenn and Satsuki lock into a desperate tandem duel, and with one final push, they carve out enough distance. The magicians hurled their weapons into the fray, but the Fire Demon King just boots the canister aside and smashes it to pieces. Tendrils exploded from the flower and snapped around her, trapping her in a vice-like grip. It was supposed to be over. Then the demon snapped into laughter, a terrifying, maniacal sound, as she erupted in her own dark flames and instantly incinerated the flower that was holding her. Now that she's finally powered up, she braces herself and launches a deadly counterattack. She hurls two colossal fireballs that blast apart the mage's magic shield in an instant. Then he teleports to the back of the last soldiers and wipes them out in the blink of an eye. Up on the rooftop, they can only stare in terror as they snatch a bitter victory. Now that the Fire Demon King is fallen, Glenn and Satsuki finally think it's over. Then the Earth Demon King hurls a brutal, massive ice attack at them. Cecilia realizes she can't save everyone, so she slams up a desperate magic shield around her companions, leading with Glenn to finish off the demon for her. Moved by that iron resolve, Glenn leans in and calls her a truly good woman. As the attack hurtles toward her, Satsuki snaps into her flowing water dance again, blasting the ice assault apart right at its source. Now that the danger is gone, Glenn waves Satsuki to the side while he swings to the other flank, both set to finish this fight for good.